Combat Experience Coefficient 3. I wonder what that... Oh, it's a special mission. Doesn't make sense. I only got 474. I think I can do better than 2100, so. Hmm. $131. That's pretty cool. So you might wonder, is the 131 really better? The answer is yes. In Frontline, there's a feature called Inspire, and when you hit it, it improves your percentages, and you can immediately see the tank perform better. And when the timer runs out, like 30 seconds later, you immediately see the entire performance of the tank go down. So it really does make a difference. You're not going to believe what happened. I lost 2 of the same recording. So I have to go through this again. 2 games ago, I lost my internet connection. My tank drove on its own. It was on Live Oaks. And crashed into an ally. He fired at me. Kept on driving. After a few minutes, I got back in the game. Still alive. Helped the team win the game. And because of this, because I've been traveling since 2008, living in hotels, internet connection is horrible. You have no idea how bad it is. High ping time, etc. Lots of packet loss. It's a packet loss that really ruins the game. And because of that, it ruins my win rate. It brings it down to 49%. So when people see my win rate, they think I'm a horrible player. Even though, when I'm in ranked battles, they're 56%, I'm 49%, I'm still playing with them. So one day I made a sniper position video, and I posted it on Watt Labs, and this guy responded by saying, "You're a sucky player. Nobody cares about your stupid video. Why don't you go watch a real YouTube streamer and learn how to play?" And because of that, I went into the forums on the NA and the EU server, and I said something like, your win rate is not a good indicator of player skill. And I gave a list of reasons why. And it ended up being one of the busiest threads on the forums. And this was a year and a half ago, in the summer of 2019. On EU, it got over 100 pages. On NA, last I checked, it was like 60 pages. And what happened was I got so much hate from that today people still attack me when they see me in game or in the forums. And it doesn't matter what I say. If I go say Merry Christmas, they'll say something extremely hateful to me. And there's some players, like if I post a bug report, they say, no, there's no bugs in the game. You don't understand how the game works. They always say, you don't understand the mechanics of the game. I'm a computer programmer. I've been playing video games since the 1970s. I know just as well as the developers do. And I've done 3D programming before. I know how it works. And when I give bug reports, I even tell the developers how to fix it. So I get all this hate messages. And some people are just really bad. But not only do they believe it, but even the forum moderators believe it. So if I say, this person posted, I said there's a bug in the game, and the guy responded by saying, I hate you. I said, could you please remove his post? They won't remove it. And I went through this for a long time, so many posts. And I wrote a letter to Wargaming, and I sent it in the mail. You got to send it in the mail. By email, they don't care as much. And I said, this has gone on too far. I'm tired of being harassed when I play the game, in the forums, on my website, anywhere. These people are constantly harassing me. Every day I get hate messages. And I got thousands of comments on my YouTube channel from these nasty people. And a short time later, they added the anonymizer, which I use. It's turned on. I have to use it. Otherwise, they'll ram into me, and they'll send me messages saying, oh, I'm a big fan. I have a question for you. How do you play considering that you're autistic? And they think that they're so original, but yet they all ask the same question. They all have the same exact sense of humor. They know one joke. So, one person, what he did was he made a playlist on YouTube. I know what it is. I found it, where he adds my videos and his buddies go and they downvote everything. So if I have a new video, it'll get 30 dislikes on YouTube, all at once. And all the stats show they only watch 5 seconds of the video. And then they'll post, oh, you got 30 dislikes and 1 like. And they so hard attacked my channel, and all the hateful posts and the hateful comments. And, it really doesn't bother. It bothered me at one time. Right now, I really don't care, but it makes for a good story in this particular video, right? These people are absolutely horrible, and they still do it. They haven't stopped. So I'm going to use an example. There's this guy named Savo. It's Tsavo. He's one of the players. I don't know if that's his in-game name. It might be with an underscore or something. Anytime I post anything, he attacks me verbally. And if I complain to the moderators, they don't do anything about it because they're friends with him. The way they talk, it's literally like they're friends with him. And these people are children. They act like children. I mean, I'm a business owner. When you're a business owner, the customer's always right. And that doesn't mean that if the customer says 2 + 2 = 5. No, what it means is if the customer says that they're unhappy and they want a refund, just give them the refund. If there's no harm done, just give them the refund. You don't argue with your customers. You don't have your forum moderators say, oh, I'm going to leave this message where somebody's saying he hates another player. That's very irresponsible. That moderator, if I had seen a moderator do that one time, would have been kicked out. He would not be a moderator anymore. I don't care if he's a volunteer or not. It's not appropriate behavior. So there was this guy, I would post messages, and he would say, you didn't respond to my post. And I was like, what are you talking about? So yeah, in the thread about stats and win rate, you didn't respond to me. I was like, it's 60 pages long. There's 20 posts per page. That's 1,200 responses. I don't have time to read 1,200 responses. And on the EU server, there's 2,000 responses. And he still attacked me. He said, no, you have to respond anytime I post something to you. So this guy got really angry. And I was posting oh, here's an instructional video. And he posts this thing criticizing me, right? So, a week later, I post something somewhere else. It was about South Africa SPG, which was a video that came from the Wargaming developers. And this same guy demanded that my thread be locked. And the moderator agreed with him. So this is what I did. I made my post. I said, the game developers made an announcement about a South African SPG wheeled vehicle that can fire like a tank destroyer. And I thought it was really interesting. So the guy responds and says, this poster has a history of not responding to other posters' responses. And the moderator said, agreed, locking the thread. And I said to the guy, "You're locking me because you believe that I don't respond to something else that someone posts." And keep in mind, the guy did not say, "Oh, that's interesting. Tell us more." What he said was, "You're a liar," or something like. He just said something harassing, right? And this moderator defended. He must have written 100 paragraphs to me because we went back and forth a little bit defending his decision. He said, "This is not discussion worthy." It's totally discussion worthy. He says, "No one's going to respond to it." No one's going to respond to it because you locked the thread 5 minutes after I posted it. So that's an example of the bad attitude that some players have. And even the moderators are players too. And some of them are in these clans and they're friends with other people that have bad attitudes. I'm 49 years old. I've had my own business since 1993. And I've had employees. I've had 150 employees. One employee with a bad attitude will destroy your company. I had one employee who wanted a raise, and I was already paying like 25% above the minimum wage, which is pretty good. The minimum wage was like 5.5, and I was paying 8. He wanted a minimum wage, and I said, I have a fixed labor. The only way to give you a raise is to fire somebody and spread the money around. So he organized a strike at my company. And when the month was over, I said, "You guys didn't do the work I assigned to you for the month." And, when you got 50 employees and you're paying them wages, it comes out of my pocket. You can total out how much money it is that I pay these people. And I was like, "You wasted all that money. 50 people's wages for 1 month down the drain." And I fired more than half of my employees because they went along with his strike. My manager mentioned to me, "Oh, they're doing a worker strike," or something like that. And at first I was like, well, let's see what happens. But then I realized, I wasted all that money. And not only that, he was bad-mouthing me. He was lying to other employees about me. And I contacted my old boss. My old boss has a very well-known company. It's a Google subsidiary, okay? And I contacted him and I said, "What do I do?" And he told me, "If your employees don't respect you, fire them." And I said, "Okay, I'm going to fire him." And I mentioned to one of the managers, so, I contacted my old boss and this is the advice he gave me. He said it very plain, if your employees don't respect you, fire them. And then like a day later, another employee came up to me and said, "Oh, there's a rumor going around that if your employees don't like you, you're going to fire them." And it's like, why would I keep people on staff that don't like me? And I don't know why they got this attitude. I was such a great boss. It was because they wanted more money was the reason why. If they ever believe that the company makes money, they want a raise, and that's it. There's no getting around. You can never tell your employees, "Oh yeah, we had a good month. This product worked out really well." They want a raise. It's like, I can't afford to give you a raise. Worked out well means that I've made very little money because, you just launched the product. When someone owns a business, let's say it's World of Tanks, the money doesn't come in the first month. They have to wait years to accumulate all the money that they've earned developing the product because they make a certain amount per month and they still got to pay their expenses. As every month goes by, they're bringing in more income and more income to pay off all the debts that they created. That's the way it is. It's not like World of Tanks finally made the game and finally released it and then they had $10 million in the bank. It doesn't happen. So they thought that they're all supposed to get a raise, and I was like, I can't afford to give you a raise. Score is 2-5. Always got to check if they're firing APCR, which I will be doing. Fired 1 round. Scores 2-8. Yeah, so there's so much more to this story. But for a while, I had to shut off the number of likes and dislikes shown on videos. Otherwise, they just kept disliking every video, and it went on for months. For like 6 months, they were still doing it. And I bet you that playlist is still there. I bet you they still do it. And the comments were so nasty. And then on the live stream, they're so nasty to me. I'm not going to say what they did because I don't want them to know that they succeeded at it. But they did nasty things on Twitch on the live stream. To me, I had to complain to Wargaming and send in evidence. Look at what they did while I was live streaming. And, Wargaming never, they responded saying, are you sure it wasn't this? Are you sure it wasn't that? I said, look, here's the evidence. Here's what happened. Here's all the documents. When I sent them all the evidence, they never responded to me. They never responded saying, oh, yeah, we discovered what was wrong. Nothing. Because they don't want to admit to what happened. They know that something bad happened. I'm not going to say what it is. But people can really F you in the game. There's people that know how to do some things to screw you over. Like stream sniping, I'm going to use as an example. So what I had to do was I had to stop streaming. Otherwise, they were ruining all of my games. And I then said, F it, I'm going to put like a 15-minute delay, which is what I did. And even then, that didn't work. They would go in and they would cut any video that would make me look bad. And all the messages were always harassing, and they're always asking me questions like, what's your religion? What's your politics? They're always trying to say something like, what's your race? They wanted to start an argument with me. And I'm not stupid. I'm not a child. They think that I don't know what they're doing or something, right? And these were people from top clans. One of them was called Fame, F-A-M-E. And I don't remember what the other clan was called, like Lame or something like that. But you could tell that they were trying to they were making fun of me, right? But I play along and pretend that it doesn't bother me, which it really didn't bother me that much. But they were trying to goad me and stuff like that, and to say, oh yeah, we don't care that you're a bad player. They would say things like that. Make all the snide comments. And unfortunately, it's very common in the United States. I lived in the U.S., and in the U.S., everybody cares about money. At least where I lived, they did. Maybe it's not like that everywhere else. But we lost. They capped us. In the United States, people are obsessed with money, and they just can't enjoy doing something. Like if I played racquetball, I was picked to be on the squash team in college. I made it to the squash team. It was like unofficial tryout because it was end of the year, not beginning of the year. And 1,000 damage isn't so bad. Not enough, though. So when I would play racquetball, there were people that if they lost, they would cry like a baby. And I'm like, we're in gym class. I happen to be good at racquetball because I played 4 days a week. I was good at racquetball. And you're good when you can beat the coach. When you can beat the racquetball coach, you're finally good. And there was a player, I accidentally hit him. If you play racquetball, Brian Regan tells a joke about racquetball because you could see the ball coming at you, and at the same time it hits you in the back of the head. I hit the ball off the back wall, and it hit the guy in the back of the head. I wasn't looking at him. What are the chances that it's going to hit the guy in the back of the head? He just happened to be standing and I hit it off the back wall. It happens. As soon as I did that, he said, "I'm going to get you back," he says to me. And it scared the crap out of me. He was a big Russian guy. He was a big Russian guy. He wasn't like a little scrawny dude. And he scared the crap out of me. And I was like, "Man, you got a bad attitude." And you know what he did? A couple shots later, he hit me in the back. Not in the back of the head, but he hit me with the ball. And I was like, you effing did that on purpose, you a-hole. But that's how people are. Got bad attitudes. You don't get anywhere. You're never going to be truly happy with attitudes like that. You should be happy. Happiness comes from achievement. It doesn't come from revenge or thinking that the world is out to get you or the world hates you or something like that. And you know what? In my stream, you'll hear me say that guy cheated. I am just joking. And there's people say, that guy didn't cheat. He outplayed you. I'm just joking. It's just a joke. And people just don't have a sense of humor. Like, I will look at the end game for like a second and say, all these guys are cheaters, or this guy is a known cheater. What's his name? It's a joke. If this were on Twitch, they would have clipped what I said and said, streamer rages. Like, come on. I'm raging. I have always been a happy person. If you look at my photos, I'm always smiling. And people hate it. I can't believe how much people hate other people who are happy. And there's so many miserable people in the world. And unfortunately, the country that I'm in now, the Philippines, misery is everywhere. They've got misery mastered. And you know what? When I was younger, I really felt alone in the world. I didn't think that there was anybody like me. I thought, I'm the only one that has the opinions that I have. And like when you see all the fighting going on with the news media and people in the United States, this is 2020, people are going crazy. And I'm like, what's wrong with these people? And I actually have found some nice people. Because of this, I found some nice people. Because there's other people saying, what you're doing is crazy, I found people who agree with me that, the bad attitude, it's one thing to joke around. It's another thing to seriously have hatred of people over something stupid. I hate you. Did I say that? Did I mention that? I don't like it. And I have no friends. I'm the type of person, wherever I go, I'm usually happy. It's hard for me to be unhappy. You really got to ruin my life for me to be unhappy about something. Yep. See this team, bunch of numbnuts? There's players who really take the game seriously, and they hate what's going on. And, I'll comment on it. And maybe it surprises me, but I don't think, you effing a-hole. I presume that they don't know how to play because they don't. It's a very accurate presumption. Oh, look at that ricochet. Yeah. I hit the wrong key. I hit the 4 to fix a track. I needed to hit the 5. Reminding the team that there's someone there. Yeah, it's too bad I lost too many hit points. From that Stug. Yeah, like I'm the type of person for my clan, I let anybody join. I don't care what your skill level is. As long as we enjoy playing. If someone has a bad attitude, we get rid of them. We had to get rid of some people. Perhaps you. That's a very popular camo because they gave it away for free with like tank rewards or something. So a lot of people have it. Okay, so I think I'm going to cut this video here. I don't know what tank it is, but I'm going to put Watt Streamer rages about about other players. Can't believe, oh, the stream did work. Huh. I'm going to re-explain everything I just explained. I am hungry. This I would re-roll. Yeah, so continuing the conversation, one of the things that I noticed in the United States is that the women had really negative attitudes. If I sent them a nice email on a dating website, they wouldn't respond. But if they misunderstood something I said and they thought it was offensive, they would respond immediately and they would say something nasty. And I would be like, that is not what I meant. You misunderstood. And they have something called negging, which means you tear somebody down by saying, "Oh, your shoes don't match with that shirt," you know. And I'm like, seriously, that's what you're looking for in a relationship with somebody? That's absolutely crazy. Negging. No business entrepreneur would think like that. And there's not enough business entrepreneurs in the world. My mother had a bad attitude about everything. I saw it firsthand. I got so many stories about my mother. I wish if we had YouTube, when I was 18, I'd have like a, 12 hours a day of videos. This is what my mother did today. Highway. Okay, so this is going to be a video where I am going to talk about something that I think is interesting. So if you watch my videos, if you watch all my videos, you would know I have a crazy mother. So I'm going to tell you some stories about my crazy mother from when I was a child. But, so one of the things about my mother being crazy is that she was angry all the time. Anytime I saw her. So like when she came home from work, she'd walk in the door angry, she'd yell and scream. You didn't want to be around her. Was always avoiding her. You had to be careful what you say. She would say dumb things like, where were you? And I would say I was outside, and she would say, don't talk when I'm talking to you. And then she would, she was like answer me, and then when you answer, she would say, "Don't speak when I'm speaking to you." You know, she would say stupid things like that. It's like, you just asked me to tell you. And she always believed she was right about everything and everything always, and that's it. So if you say, well, you know, I have this video evidence of, you know, doesn't matter. You're wrong. I don't care. That's what she would say. So she lied all the time. She was just a habitual liar. And I know a habitual liar because they tell you to lie to other people. You know, they'll say things like, let's say I'm going to be late. Oh, Mom, I'm going to be late. You know, I'm going to be late to Grandma's. She's not going to be happy because I was supposed to be there an hour ago. My mother would say, oh, just tell her that, you know, she would make up a lie. And that's how you know a liar, because they encourage you to lie to other people. And I don't lie to people. I've never lied in my life. So, the other thing is my mother has different rules for her and for everybody in the family. Everybody has a different rule. And it's not about the rule. It's about you're just always wrong. So it's like, if she would see me sitting on the couch, and she might say, don't sit on the couch. I don't want to ever see anybody sitting on the couch. That couch is not for you. It's for when we have guests over. And then the next day, she'd be sitting on the couch. And you'd say, Mom, I thought you said no one's allowed to sit on the couch. She said, I can sit on the couch. Something like that. So she would make one rule for her, one rule for someone else. And then she might do something like, let's say my mother insists, because trust me, we had family members that have rules like you cannot sit on the couch. These were actual rules. But that's another story. So like, if I saw my sister and I said, Joanne, you know, Mom said she doesn't want anyone sitting on the couch. Joanne, my sister, would always say something like, she said I could sit on the couch. And I was like, she did not tell you could sit on the couch. My sister would just always say that she already was pre-authorized to do everything that I wasn't allowed to do. So maybe my mother would come home and she would say, why were you sitting on the couch today? I said, I wasn't sitting on the couch. You told me not to. I didn't sit on the couch. She said, I know someone was sitting on the couch because the pillow was moved. I said, no, it was Joanne. Oh, Joanne can sit on the couch. You know, and I was like, you just said nobody. I said, no, Joanne can sit on the couch. You can't. You know, she was always changing the rules. And she would blame me for things that, like, my brother would, on Saturday morning, he would go get breakfast cereal. My brother Joe, he's another nut job. Hello, Joe. How you doing? So Joe would go and get a bowl of cereal and milk, and he would go and into the living room that you're not supposed to sit on the couch, and he would put the milk on the table with the cereal, pour himself a bowl of cereal, and then he would have bananas, like 2 bananas, and he would take his shoes off and his socks off. So you would come into the living room, let's say 10 a.m., and there would be a pair of sneakers, his socks, his sneakers, an eaten bowl of cereal, a box of cereal open, and the milk. And Joe would not be there. He would just leave it there. That's how much of a mama's boy he was. And my mother would always blame me. Why'd you leave the cereal in the living room? I said, I didn't do it. Yes, you did. I don't care who did it. You know, she would always say something like that. And she would always say that it was my fault and my responsibility. Everybody knows it was Joe. And he didn't do this once. He did it with such regularity that I was shocked how long this went on for. And I was like, who wants to drink milk after it's been sitting out in the living room for an hour or something like that? And I was at the point where I just stopped eating cereal. I would not, if unless I was the one who opened the milk carton, I would not have any milk. That was it. So I probably told a story about the pencil. My mother came home one day and saw a pencil on the dining room table, and she flipped out. And she yelled. 'Cause everything she said was in yelling format, you know. She yelled that there were pencils all over the place. Oh my God, pencils all over the place. I'm like, it's one effing pencil. So that's the way she was. And she demanded that I pick up this pencil and put it away. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And like, I'd have to go and look, and I'd have to see, oh, there's a pencil on the dining room table. This really drives you that crazy. And this is just small number of things that she did, you know? So another example was she would give us chores. And the chore system was not fair, but I really don't want to get into it because it's going to be another video, right? Another hour-long chore video. So one day she did not leave us any chores, and there was nothing to watch on TV, right? So I said, I am going to do something. I got to do something. So I decided to wash the dishes, because my mother would have asked me to do the dishes anyway, right? When she got home, she would have asked me to wash the dishes. She either forgot to leave the chores, or maybe my brother stole the chore sheet. I don't know. So I decided to wash the dishes, and when she came in, she flipped out. And the reason why she said I was not washing the dishes, she said I was not washing the dishes fast enough. And I was like, you've been inside the house for like 5 seconds. You came in, saw me washing the dishes, and started yelling at me. And then her reasoning was always some crazy reasoning. And the reason why this is relevant is because today, when I turn on the news and listen to people ranting on YouTube, I'm like, this is my mother. I grew up with this. You do not want to be around these people. They're absolutely absurdly crazy with their beliefs about everything. And I'll add a brother story. One day, my mother couldn't find like some pots and pans. She didn't know where the pots and pans were. And what had happened was my brother, Joe, the mama's boy, he wasn't washing dishes. What he was doing was hiding them under his bed. So she found all these dishes that effing Hetzer. So there's a Hetzer. I'm going to guess he's over here. So my brother, instead of washing dishes, was hiding them under his bed. And at some point, all the pots and pans were under his bed, dirty. And my mother eventually found them because she didn't know where all the pots and pans went. And we had plenty of pots and pans. We had 3 or 4 of everything, right? So, she yelled at us. I don't remember her punishing my brother or anything. But my brother always got away with everything. I don't want to go off on a tangent on my brother's behavior. I'm going to talk about my mother. So I'm going to tell you another story. When I was a child, I didn't have a bedroom door because one day my mother went completely psycho and she literally tore the door off my bedroom. This is so dead serious. She got angry. I was in my room and, she got angry whenever I would close the door to my bedroom. She had to always know everything I was doing. So one day my bedroom door was closed and she opened the door. She said, "What are you doing?" And I was probably like, I was near the bed somewhere far from the door. And she said, "I don't want you to close your door ever again." And she looked at the door and then she just ripped it off the hinges. And obviously it wasn't strongly connected to the hinge because, this is one of those doors that's hollow, and it's got the cheap wood, and whatever. She pulled it off. It was a Ryan home. There, you got a plug for Ryan Homes. That's how other people talk about Ryan Homes. So for years, I had no bedroom door, and I had no privacy. I had to go to the bathroom to change my clothes or to do anything else that I did that I would normally do in my bedroom that required privacy. So, but my mother was so mean that she would brag about it. Like, she would say in front of the relatives, "Oh yeah, David doesn't have a bedroom door. I ripped it off the wall." She would say things like that. And they knew she was crazy, but they didn't understand. I don't think they understood the extent to which my mother crazed. So Jim Carrey once said, "People who are funny have crazy mothers." So the funnier you are, the crazier your mother was. That was his theory, and he said this because he knows comedians, and that was his analysis of comedians. Hit the wrong button there. Okay, another crazy mother story. One day I had a friend. I actually had a friend. I was like in 6th grade or 5th grade, and he moved to Texas. I don't remember his name. So he moved to Texas, and we wrote letters because that's what you did back then. And I decided, I've got a tape recorder. I'm going to make an audio tape and send him an audio tape, and maybe he would send me a letter back or something. So I was recording an audio tape. You would record like 40 minutes, 45 minutes, or, if you had a short tape, it would be 30 minutes. And I probably went out and bought this tape on my own with my own money. And I was recording this tape, and I heard my mother. She came home and she yelled, "Dave, Joe, come down here now," something like that. So I went downstairs and I said, "Ma?" And my father was in the basement. Yeah, we'll get into that later, right? My father's in the basement, and he says, "I think she went outside." Obviously, he heard the door close. So I went outside, and my mother was removing grocery bags from the car, like 7 bags. I seem to recall there was like 7 bags. And back then, you had the big square paper bags. So she's removing these bags, and I go and grab a bag. She's angry the whole time. She's yelling and screaming. And I'm following after, saying, what? Carrying grocery bag. And she's still yelling and screaming, opens the door. We would just put the bags inside the door. Take them from the car, put them inside the door. Because in the winter, in the cold in New York, you don't want to hang out outside, You get it in the door as fast as possible. And then once you close the front door, you go around and you bring the bags into the kitchen, which was a bit of a walk. We didn't have a garage. Another story, right? So after she yelled and screamed for who knows how long, I never finished helping her bring. Oh, maybe I brought all the groceries, and I really don't remember. It was hard to remember. She finally told me why she was yelling and screaming. She said, "I wanted you to hold the door open." She didn't say it. She yelled it. I was like, "You didn't say that, You did not say that. You just came in yelling and screaming." And I noticed that my brother never came down. He never came out. He heard her. But he's smart. He's not stupid. He knows that she's trouble. There's another story I want to tell, but I'm not going to say it. So when we were kids, my mother used to do things like throw water at us at the dinner table and squirt the ketchup at us. And she loved to push our face into like a bowl of spaghetti. So what she would do is, we would be sitting there eating. We're just kids, like 4 or 5 years old. And she would get up and walk around the table. You don't know why she'd walk around the table. She's walking around the table because she's going to push your face in your food. And she was always threatening it. But because we were kids, we didn't know what she was talking about. And she would always say, I'm going to push your face in your food. And when she got up and walked around and did it, I never thought I did something bad or anything like that. I was like, what the hell is this? I didn't cry. I just went up to the bathroom, washed my face, clothes are all dirty. And then you go down, guess what happens? She's going to push your face in the food again. And who knows what her reasoning is. Always something dumb, like you're not eating fast enough, or you don't eat enough, or she doesn't like that you got your elbow on the table. It's all sorts of crazy nonsense. So this is another demented story about my mother. I remember being in a high chair. My mother was always threatening. She was always saying, if you aren't good, I am going to put you outside in the backyard so all the neighbors can see how bad you are. She would always say that. And I was like, I didn't know what she was talking about. It's like the neighbors, just a child. And then one day she did it, and I found out what she meant. She took the high chair. I don't know how old I was. I was old enough that I'd sit in a high chair. And I'm not talking about like a 2020 high chair. I'm talking about 1970s high chair. Only the small kids sit in the high chair. It's not now where you put a 10-year-old in a high chair where they baby everybody, right? So she put me in the high chair, and I don't know why I'm sitting outside. I'm just sitting outside in the high chair. And I was out there for a long time. And at some point, the neighbor came over and saw me sitting in the high chair, and I remember looking at him. I'm just sitting in the high chair. Didn't really understand why. And then my mother acted really guilty the next day because the neighbor told my father, he went up to him and said, why is your kid in a high chair out in the backyard? The neighbor was a good guy. He was an old man. And you could see that my mother knew she had done something wrong. The problem is that my mother grew up where there were no consequences for her actions. Because she grew up in Italy on a farm in the middle of nowhere, and there's no one around to say, look at what your kid did. Nobody knows your business. If you want to murder I probably shouldn't say that on YouTube. If you want to terminate something of another being, nobody would know. Nobody would ever know. They're out in the middle of nowhere. And the nearby towns have small number of people. So to her, life has no consequences. And she was just a horrible person. The way she treated us was just horrible. And another example is she was always threatening to put my hand on the stove. Whenever I was bad, she wanted to put my hand on the hot stove. It sounded like something her mother would threaten her, even though they had outdoor oven. I know because I saw their house. They didn't have electricity or running gas. In Italy, you have the small house, and outside there's like a brick oven, and they have to start a fire, and they put the pizza in the brick oven. And that's the way people cooked at their house. And you share with the neighbors, right? So she was always threatening to put my hand on the stove. But I was so short that my hand didn't reach onto the stove. And I remember her dragging me into the kitchen. I'm yelling and screaming. I don't know what she's talking about. And she wouldn't be able to put my hand onto the stove because I was so short. So, months would go by. And if you don't know a lot about kids, they can grow quickly over the course of a year. One day she said, I'm going to put your hand on the stove. And she dragged me from the living room into the kitchen. And she put my hand on the hot stove and burnt my hand. And I was like, you are a complete psycho. That's my mother. And then you know what happens when you, in school, you always hear, oh, mothers are so wonderful. All the wonderful things mothers do for the kids. You're fucking crazy. You're living in a dream world. Anytime I said to anybody, oh, my mother was bad, she did this. No, your mother didn't do that. No, yeah, she did. One day she put my hand. Nope. No American would ever believe when I would say my mother did that. They just would never believe. They refuse to believe it. And you listening to the stream saying, no, this is not true. This never happened. Yeah, it happened. And I haven't even told you all the stories. I mean, this is just tip of the iceberg. Okay, that's it for this video. I'm going to continue in another video, which you may never see. Okay, so I need to check something out, and I have to do something cool. I have to relieve myself. Gameplay. Stories about my crazy mother. I'll be back in a moment. Okay, I'm back. Yay! Man, I am so hungry. Okay, I'm just going to be playing a bunch of games. There's going to be 3 or 4 games in this video, but you're going to get a great treat. I am going to tell you stories about my crazy mother. And if you watch my channels, I've got lots of channels, there's lots of videos that have stories about my crazy family, which is almost entirely my mother's side of the family, right? So when I was a child, my mother required that I sat next to her at dinner. And the reason why is because I guess sometimes she would get angry that I either would not eat enough food. It was usually she always wanted me to eat more food, and I'm fat now, than I always wanted to eat. And she definitely overfed me, right? Which is common in Italian families. So she would hit me. She would hit me, and I'm talking about when I was a child, like 3, 4 years old. She would get so angry every night about eating. And therefore, she had a rule. I had to sit next to her because when she would hit me, I would run, right? Or I would try to run, because the first couple of times you get hit. So eventually I would try to run. And because of that, she would sit at the table holding my arm down to the table. I had to sit next to her with my hand on the table, and she would be holding my hand onto the table throughout dinner. And the reason why she did this is because if she wanted to hit me, she didn't want me to run. And, now that I'm thinking about it as an adult, I wonder if she would maybe try to say something to try to get me to be angry just so she could hit me. Because every day she was threatening to hit me. I mean, it wasn't a once in a while thing. So at some point, I had a sister when I was 4. When I was 4, and I remember when my mother was pregnant with my sister, we're 4.5 years apart. So when I was 3.5, because it takes a year of pregnancy. So I remember those ages. So when I got my sister, my mother had to feed my sister, so she stopped holding my arm down to the table. And what she did was she had a wooden spoon, which had a long handle on it, and she would keep it at the dinner table. So anytime she didn't like something that I said or did, she would just hit me with the spoon. And this was all the time. Every night she was like, I'm going to hit you with the spoon. I'm going to hit you with the spoon. And over the course of my life, she broke, I don't know, 4 or 5 spoons on me. They don't last forever. They've got limited lifespan. And she had a multiple selection of spoons. She had the long handle spoon, the short handle spoon. Yeah, that was stupid right there. So, yeah, I'm going to miss this. Oh, maybe not. So, she was always hitting me with the spoon, but it didn't stop. We're talking about when I was like 5 or 6 years old. It never stopped. Like when I was 18 years old, she would still have that wooden spoon. And she would always have a pitcher of water because she liked throwing water at us. And it was always me. It was never my brother or my sister. And I'm going to give you an example of how awful. I was the one in the family that was always wrong. One day, my father asked my brother to do something. He said, Joe, this is the way my father, he was like, hey, Joe, I need you to clean the garage. And Joe would say, why don't you ask Joanne? And then he would say, Joanne, I need you to clean the garage. And then she would say, why don't you ask David? And he would say, David, I need you to clean the garage. I would say, what the F is wrong with you people? Just based on that, you just have to say, why don't you ask somebody else? And you just ask somebody else. I was the one who was guilty for everything. No matter what it was my fault. So, my father was not as bad as my mother. My mother was the yo-yo loco. So I've told this story before. You probably never heard it, though. There's a movie, Mommy Dearest. And one day I was sleeping. My mother came into my room. It was probably a Saturday or a Sunday morning. She comes in and she says to me, if you have any wire hangers in your closet, I am going to beat you with them. And I was scared to death. I was like, and I looked over at my closet, all wire hangers. And I thought right there she's going to beat me, right, with these wire hangers. And she looked at the closet. We were both, right next to the closet. So she's also looking at the closet, and then she walked out. I said, and I'm thinking, you are a crazy woman. But I literally thought she was going to beat me with these wire hangers. She never did. She just threatened it. So then, fast forward a few years later, one day she says, oh, there's a movie I want you to watch, Mommy Dearest. And she made me watch this movie. It's about Joan Crawford. And there's a scene in there about where Joan Crawford tells a daughter she actually does beat her with the wire hangers. She goes crazy about wire hangers, starts beating her daughter, right? And the brother ran away, like the brother was adopted or something. And I wrote to Christina Crawford is her name. I wrote an email to her and she said, F off. I don't care about your story. Because nobody believes Christina Crawford. Like Christina Crawford wrote the book Mommy Dearest. And I looked it up on Amazon. All the comments are, Christina, you're a liar. No mother would do that to a child. And I sent Christina Crawford an email. Said, Christina, I saw the movie and I want you to know my mother was the same way. And I believe you, I said to her. And she responded back saying something like, don't ever contact me again. Something really mean. And I was like, oh, maybe she thought I was sarcastic or something. That's possible. She's an old woman. She's like 90 years old now. So that was an example. And after the movie was over, this is what my mother said to me. She says, see, other kids are bad, just like you. And I was like, the kid was not bad. That kid did not deserve to be beaten with wire hangers. And then I made the connection. Oh, my mother watched that movie. And then she's got this idea from the line in the movie. And there were other things in the movie that Joan Crawford said. One of them was, "I'm not mad at you, I'm mad at the dirt." My mother said that to me when I was a kid. And there was one other, I really don't remember what it is, but just dumb things. And when my mother said it, I said, I always thought my mother's really dumb. That's the thought in my mind, you know? Um, and when she said that line, "I'm not mad at you, I'm mad at the dirt," it's like, it had nothing to do with whatever we were doing. It's not like I was cleaning up dirt. For some reason, she just made this comment. I don't know. Oh, this doesn't have vents. Um, Not spotting. Probably not going to use anything. Um, so what was I going to say? Another day, my mother insisted that we were just bad kids and that she wasn't a bad mother. You know, she was a great mother, apparently. Um, One day she would read the advice columnist. There was an advice columnist. I don't remember her name, but she was a horrible advice columnist. She was so sexist. She was like the most famous advice columnist. And eventually the daughter took over. And when the daughter took over, the daughter was actually better than the mother. It was called like Ask Joan, or I don't remember what it's called. But if you're 50 years old, you know who I'm talking about. So she'd be in all the newspapers. And one day I came home and there was this newspaper column on the refrigerator, obviously for everybody to read. And it said, "I live in Syracuse." You know, I'm from Syracuse. And it said, "My son is so lazy. He never cleans up after himself. And she goes through all these things. And I even think it said his name is Joe. And when I'm reading this, I said, this describes Joe perfectly. And I'm wondering, my mother reads this column every day. I wonder, did my mother send this letter in to this advice columnist? And I don't remember what the response was. It was probably something really dumb. Because I wonder if this was a dumb woman who gave like the same answer to every question. Her advice was just horrible. It was always like, men are the breadwinner of the family, and if the man doesn't make double your salary, then you should divorce him. You know, it was always just dumb advice. Where, oh yeah, I don't know, I don't remember. It was just super dumb advice. Um, we had friends of the family that were Indian, and they were nice. I liked both of them. And my mother was friends with the wife. They worked at the same place. And why am I going over here? I'm only going to be here for a short time and then I'll leave. Only if we spot something. So the leopard has like 20 seconds to spot something, otherwise I'm out of here. And obviously there's somebody at the base. Yeah, see, we got something. So in India, they have customs that they do. And I'm not going to say what it is because there are people who quickly get offended by it. But there's one custom that the wife didn't like to do. Even though I would do it for my wife, it's something that you do when you love somebody. It's like, you you got a baby, you change the baby's diaper. That's the way it is. You don't complain about it. I hate changing the baby's diaper. So what my mother said was, divorce him, and that's it. Because, it was a custom where the man, you could say, is, I'm not going to say what the custom is. I will say, the wife washes the man's feet. That's what the custom is, right? So my mother said, divorce him, because he approved of this custom, and she didn't want to do it. And she divorced him. And I'm sure that there were other reasons why, but that was my mother's attitude. It was never, we should talk about it, or if he needs some help, I'll help. No, divorce him. Because, in the U.S., every time there's a problem with the man, it's always, he's horrible. Break up with him. Louis C.K. tells a story about overhearing two women talking, and that's what they say. He's a piece of shit. So my mother's like, everything about her is just horrible. It's like she has no concept of what it means to know anything about being a nice person or anything. One day, I always thought my mother was just a super dumb person because of all the dumb things she said. So one day there was like a funeral or a wedding, and I was visiting from college, and I did not have certain clothing, underwear. No, I didn't have a tie. So we went to the store to buy a tie, and it was a store where she worked, because she worked at a clothing store in Syracuse. If you listen to my videos, you'll hear the Alec Baldwin story. Because the Baldwins, some of them live in Syracuse and shop at that store. So my mother knows all sorts of celebrities from working at the clothing store. So, my mother is complaining about the tie that I want. I said, I want this tie. And she said, no, that one's ugly. I said, yeah, but it's the one I want. I don't think it's ugly. She said, I want you to wear this tie. Or she would come up with any reason she could to try to get me to buy a different tie, right? So the coworker that was there said, my mother's name is Bambina, right? She said, let him get what he wants. And my mother said, shh, I've almost convinced him. And I thought to my mind, number one, no, you did not almost convince me. And number two, all this time I thought you were just a stupid woman. And now I realize when I'm like 19, 20 years old, you were lying to me all these years. She wasn't stupid. Every time she gave me this dumb excuse, she was lying. And when you look at what's going on in the U.S. today with people saying crazy things, well, because you were born, you're a racist. They're not stupid. They're lying, probably, or maybe they are dumb. No, you know what? I don't know. Maybe they're lying. Oh, this is going to be good. I'm going to put this on my YouTube channel, my other channel, one that hasn't been banned yet, but will be banned by the thought police eventually. Okay, so another crazy story about my mother. I've already told this story before in another video. One day, I'll tell the accelerated story. It was raining, got home from soccer practice. My mother was getting in the car. I said, Mom, I don't have my key. Can you unlock the house? She said something like, no. You were supposed to be home. And I said, I was at soccer practice. And she says, what soccer practice? You don't have soccer practice. I was like, I've been playing soccer for like 8 years. You know I have soccer practice. So it wasn't raining at the house, but it was raining at soccer practice. I rode my bike home. So she leaves, starts raining. And I was young. Maybe it wasn't 8 years, but I was young. I was young enough that I didn't know what to do. I just sat out in the rain. And I'm sitting out in the rain for like a half an hour. It was a long time. And at some point I realized, I could go to my grandmother's house. She lives 3 houses down the street. That's how young I was. Not old enough to realize I could just go over to my grandmother's house. So I show up at my grandmother's house, all soaking wet. She's, hey, Dave, why are you walking in the rain? It's piove. She's saying something like that, right? And I said, oh, my mother locked me out of the house. The next day, my mother says, don't ever go over your grandmother's house again. And I'm thinking in my mind, I'm going to go over my grandmother's house every day. And that's what I did. I went to go see my grandmother every day throughout my childhood. When I came home from school, went to my grandmother's house. And I often ate dinner there too. So let's see if I can tell another funny story about my mother. Oh, she was a total nut. I know that she cheated. we know that she cheated on my father, and more than once. And when I was a kid, I remember her saying to me, "Oh, there used to be this Indian man, American Indian." And she was always pointing to his house. So that's where the American Indian lives. And she would talk about this Indian guy, and that she was friends with him. Yeah, so you're a kid, you don't know what the hell she's talking about. Oh, you're friends. What do you do as friends? Do you have great friend conversations? So fast forward, when I'm in my 20s, she admits to cheating on my father. I don't know the whole story. I don't want to get into it, right? So then I'm remembering, when I was a kid, I remember some guy sitting on the sofa. I was small enough as a child that I would barely remember this. I remember some guy sitting on the sofa and walking in the living room, and my mother saying, "Dave, go to your room," or something like that. She asked me to leave the room. Not something like, "Oh, go sit in the other room and listen." Not something like, she said something like, "Go to your room." And I was just a child, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go to my room. And then there was some guy there. I had no idea why. And the guy looked like so calm and collected. Like, Abraham Lincoln sitting in the Lincoln Memorial, the way he's sitting. That's what he looked like. He's just sitting there with his hands on his knees, and he's got this expressionless American Indian. And I love American Indians, by the way, because they have so much respect for the environment. So he gives me, he just looks at me like Honest Abe. And I go up to my room, and that's all I remember. But when I got older, I was like, I wonder if my mother cheated with him. And I know that's not a crazy mother story. My mother used to always throw things at me, is another thing. Like, if there was something throwable, within reasonable arm's reach, you got to duck. So she would throw shoes often. Shoes was like number one thing that she would throw. And she would always set me up because, I was just a kid. Like, if she did it today, she'd, "Dave, come over here." My brother knows not to go over there. And my sister would run. She'd be gone. She would leave the house, run down the street. But I would go over there and say, "Yes, Mom." And then she would say, "Where were you yesterday at 6 o'clock? I said, "I was at soccer practice." And then she would pick up the shoe and throw it. But she would always arrange for us to be where the shoes were, wherever they happened to be, at the front door. We had a deck in the back, so there might be shoes in the back of the house or whatever, or anything else that she wanted to throw. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to just start throwing shoes. I am going to see if anybody gets spotted. We got 2 light tanks. And to be honest, I don't think they're going to spot anything. He really shouldn't go down there because he will get spotted easily. He has no choice. I don't think they're going to spot anything, so I might leave. My sister was crazy. She took after my mother. But I want to focus on mother stories. My sister, oh my God, I got so many stories about her too. One day, it was a holiday like Thanksgiving, Christmas. So in our family, we had lasagna every holiday. So every holiday, the first dish would be tortellini soup. And then you would have lasagna was the main course. And then you would have chicken cutlets. Grandmother did a great job with the chicken cutlets, I tell you. And then they would have like salad. It was a 5-course meal. That's what Italians do. And every Italian family was always exactly the same, except for the Sicilians. The Sicilians put peas with the tomato sauce. What do they call it? Pasta fagioli or something? I don't particularly like it with peas. So We would have that, and then they would serve fruit, and then they would have like a lemon pie or an apple pie. They loved lemon pie. My brother and my aunt did. I liked the apple pie. My grandmother would actually make it with apples from the backyard. So what story was this? So one day, my mother was always picking on my aunt. It wasn't just me that she was bullying. So she's picking on my aunt. And, you know, my aunt doesn't want to sit there when my mother's around because she knows that my mother's going to pick on her. So the whole family's there. There's a lot of people there. And my aunt doesn't want to sit there and listen to my mother insult her. So she gets up and starts washing dishes. Now, keep in mind, the dining room table and the place where you wash dishes, 5 feet apart. We had a huge dining room and a huge kitchen. But when you have the whole family over, you've got maybe 20 people. And you got the big dining room and you got the kiddie table. It extends into the kitchen, and then the dishwasher's right there. So she's literally there in earshot. My mother yells at her, "How dare you wash dishes in my house?" And my aunt never came over the house again after that day for years. And I didn't realize how bad it was because, you know, eventually I went to college, and when I came back, she still refused to go over the house. And it was like, I one day told I think it was even that day I told my mother that what she said was extremely mean. I said, what you said was really mean. And she just said she didn't care. That's the way it was. I have some crazy stories that I don't want to tell. These are the ones I'm willing to tell. The ones I don't want to tell are worse. Some of them don't involve me, but I observed something nasty, and I really just don't want to say it. That's how bad it is. Because, you know, I got 2 siblings, you know. My mother was mean to them also. Just me more often. My mother was always saying things like, "I wish you were never born. How do you know I'm your real mother? I will put you up for adoption." She would say things like that. I once told my mother, "If you hit me again, I'm going to call the police." She said, "Call them and I'll hit the police." She said something, or she said, "Call them and I will hit the police." No, she said, "Call them and I will hit you in front of them and I will hit the police." That's what she said to me. You know, I was young. You know, it's something that an 8-year-old says when the mother hits him. My mother was a slapper. If she came up and she said, "Come here," and wanted you to stand within arm's reach, you know you're going to get slapped. She like pre-plans this stuff. She was a big time slapper, and I never saw it was coming. I was very naive, and she slapped me so many times. So I'm going to tell you a cute story. I remember sitting in a high chair, and I remember playing with like these little dials on the high chair, and I remember having a spoon and throwing it on the floor. And my mother said, "Don't throw the spoon on the floor." And I remember looking down and seeing the spoon on the floor. My mother picked it up, and she gave it back to me, and I immediately threw it back on the floor, which is exactly what a cat would do if you have a cat. And she probably hit me or something. But the whole point is, it's just a cute little story that she says, "Don't throw the spoon on the floor," and I immediately throw it back on the floor again. It's just a cute little story. And I remember how much I remember how excited I would be to get put in the high chair because they had these little spinny things, and I would just sit there spinning this little flower shape, and maybe there was a heart shape or something. I remember how much fun that was when I was a kid. So one thing about my mother, because, you know, if you're just getting into the stream, this is a live stream going out to the world. I'm telling crazy stories about my mother. My mother was the type of person that if I was a baby in the crib crying, she wouldn't care. I would just be crying. She wouldn't come and see if I needed a bottle or see if she had to change my diaper. Nothing. So I became the type of person that if I didn't have something when I got older, I just did without. That's the way it was. I got the tough love as a kid. You know what? I'm going to stop this video and we'll continue some stories in another video. Okay, so I am telling stories about my crazy mother. This is gameplay, Crazy Mother Part 2. And trust me, if you watch my videos here and there are videos. I'm sorry, you got to watch a lot of them to find them. So stories about my crazy mother. My mother saw this movie, Mommy Dearest, where the mother asked the daughter, what did you wear to school? And she said, oh, I wore the sweater with whatever. She was going to a private school. And the mother sent her employees to go to the school to take all of her clothes because the mother thought that the jacket was not appropriate for wearing to school or something. So she made the daughter wear it for a month. So my mother copied the movie, and she did something like that to me. My mother refused to wash my clothes. That's what it was. Hard for me to remember. So my mother refused to wash my clothes when I was a kid. And when I was young, one day she said, you have to wash your own clothes. I didn't understand she meant, I'm never going to wash your clothes ever again. And I wasn't like 18. I mean, I was young. Maybe I was 10 or 8. She showed me once how to use a machine, said, you have to wash your own clothes, and from that point onward, never wash my clothes again. So I was used to her washing my clothes up until that point. So I never had clean clothes. And I would just wear the same clothes every day. And I got to the point where I was wearing the same clothes like 4 days in a row. And like if it was a dress shirt, it would be all wrinkled. And I didn't have that many clothes. I only had a limited supply of clothes. It's like maybe I had 10 shirts or something. And maybe 2 pairs of pants. It's not like I was swimming in clothes. And my mother worked at a clothing store. Unless she got it for like 99% off, she didn't buy me clothes. All of my clothes was bought by my aunts on Christmas. So, I didn't understand. When I was in 7th grade, she was not washing my clothes. So that's 12 years old, I think. I don't remember about before that. It's really hard for me to remember. But I remember in 7th grade, I had new friends and they were talking about my clothes. And I would hear them comment sometimes about me wearing the same clothes every day. So when I got a little bit older, I was like, my mother never washes my clothes. I have to wash my own clothes. And the reason why we got away with it is because my brother and I somewhat wore the same clothing size. So my clothes were his clothes. But what my mother may not have, she saw me, she knew I was wearing the same clothes every day. She knew. And she didn't care. She just didn't care. My mother would give me a haircut. It was one of the worst experiences I ever had. Every time she did it. And she treated me like she was shearing sheep. There was never any, oh, please turn your head to the right. What she would do is she put her hand on my head and snap it where she wanted it to be. And I'm like, I had a dog and a cat. I never treated my dog and cat like that. I don't even think you'd get away with it. But that's what she would do. She was brutally positioning my head to do this haircut. And back then, you just do whatever she tells you to do. But as an adult, knowing all the things that she did, and she did stuff on purpose. She was always playing pranks on me. I would not be surprised if she was doing it on purpose just to be cruel. Because that's the way my mother was. She was very cruel to me. And I discovered that she was pranking me. It's in my other videos. I talk about some of the pranks she played on me. And she pretends that she doesn't know. Oh, I don't know what happened to your homework. Mom, why is my homework in the trash? Oh, I don't know. She would insist that she never knew, and I always believed her, and I was always wrong. She did it. She had no respect for school. So if I said one day I had final exams, and my sister was always manipulating my parents. So my sister wanted to use my bicycle, but she didn't have the combination to the lock. So on the day that I had final exams, my sister came to me and said, I want the combination for your lock. And I said, no. And my brother was going to drive me to my final exam. And I got in the car, and my mother opens the door and yells, Joe, don't you dare take him to school. And she said, not until he gives Joanne the combination for the bike lock. And I was like, I can't believe my sister did that. But that's the type of thing she would do, right? So my sister does this. And my brother refuses to drive me, shuts the car off, all that stuff. And I was like, I'm going to be late. And I told my mother, I'm going to be late for my final exam. And she said, I don't care. That's what my mother was like. Now, keep in mind, her highest level of achievement is second grade. So remember that. This is not the only time that this issue came up about her having no respect for school. I'll use the example. One day, this is going to be with my sister, not with my mother, but it, of course, involves my mother. But I was in my room working on my homework, which, of course, never happens, right? And my mother says to my sister, go get David, right? And my sister comes up and says, Dave, Mom wants you, whatever. My sister was a big troublemaker. Oh, you are so effing lucky. So I said, I'm doing my schoolwork, doing my homework. And my sister goes down and says, oh, he's just goofing around. And that's like the type of family I had. My sister was like my enemy. She was like my mortal enemy. That was a good game. Too bad you'll never see it. So, in Italy at the time, second grade was the highest that was required by the government. We're talking about like the 1950s or 1960s. And my father said that they paid the priest, because the priests were the ones that taught, the priests and the nuns. He said that they paid the priest to lie and claim that my mother was going to school when she really wasn't, because instead they were working on the farm. One of the things that was funny my mother told me, she said, oh, when I was a kid, my friends were chickens, and I played with them, and then we ate them. I'll tell you a quick story about what my grandfather did. To punish my uncle, which is my mother's younger brother, he would put him in the bucket and lower him into the well, and he would have to sit in the well for a couple hours. So that's the weird stuff that people get away with. Because of where they live. They live in a place where they didn't have to abide by any rule. So I will tell another story about my crazy mother. Oh, okay. I'm going to tell one. This doesn't involve me. My mother was a crazy woman. One day, the neighbor came over to speak to my father. He says to my father, can I speak to you? Father goes over. I walk over with him. And he says, somebody threw paint in our swimming pool. We found these salt shakers filled with paint. The paint did not come out of the shaker, so no damage was done. And I noticed that the beans in your garden were knocked down because we maximized the yard space. We had a huge garden. It was bigger than the house. and because my parents were farmers. So the frijoles, was that frajul? No, frijole is Spanish. So it was knocked down right in the direction of their pool. And the neighbor said, notice the footprints, because my mother refused to wear shoes because she didn't have shoes when she was a kid, right? You could see that they were her fat footprints in the dirt. And my father said, I do have paint in the shed. And we knew that my mother did it, but I didn't believe it, right? I didn't believe it. I was a very naive kid. So my father, he didn't get angry, he didn't stress out, but you could tell that he believed the neighbor. So just want to make sure that I'm recording. Yes. So the next day, I didn't, I saw the evidence. I saw the footprints. I knew it was my mother's footprints. And the next day, I heard my mother talking to my brother. And she said, that nasty bitch, she's talking about the neighbor's wife. I hate her so much. I hate the sound of her voice. I'm so happy I threw that paint in the pool. She made some sort of a comment. And maybe she did it knowing I was going to hear, because I was in the other room. And for some reason, I felt that she was saying it knowing that she wanted me to hear it. I don't really remember what the situation is. But my mother was just a crazy woman. She would do all these crazy things, which reminds me of a story about selling my car, my Chrysler 300. If you put in the comments about the Chrysler story when I went to sell it, and they were pretending, they were saying something to make me eavesdrop on them. They were bad-mouthing my car to try to make me think it wasn't worth anything. If you put it in the comments, I'll remember to tell the story. If you don't, I will forget. So, I couldn't believe that my mother had done that. My mother is a horrible person. So one day, the neighbor was talking on the phone, on her cordless phone. And back then, there was one type of cordless phone, and that's it. And maybe some of them you couldn't change the channel. So if your neighbor had a cordless phone, I didn't know this, but you could listen to their calls. So the neighbor was talking on the phone, and my mother was making fun of her and saying, I hate her, the sound of her voice. I don't remember the neighbor's name. I'll remember it at some point. I remember her last name was Mrs. Dodder. Mary Dodder was her name. And she was loud, but my mother was loud too. They shared something else in common, their girth. If you know the story about my friend who died, that's his mother. A friend who died when he was like 19 or 18. So everybody around me dies if you ever become my friend. So I didn't understand why my mother was saying this. And then one day my mother was making fun of the neighbor. She said, I know who you are. Stop listening to my phone conversations. I don't think it was the neighbor who said that, but my mother was repeating what she was saying. And one day my mother said something like, go get the phone. Went, got the phone and gave it to her. And she was listening to the neighbor in her phone conversation while I was sitting there. And apparently it was something that she had done before. The neighbor knew it was going on. But not only that, my mother would sit in the backyard facing the neighbor, laughing at her, while the neighbor saw her sitting there laughing at her. And the way you have to have the phone on. So to hear and speak, you have it on. There's no way to mute it. So the neighbor would probably hear her laugh, because my mother's the type of person that would laugh in your face. No rules. She's a total leftist. She would have overthrown the U.S. government by now. Video game, not serious. This is a joke. Humor, comedy, please do not ban me. But that is a little bit about my mother. I had a neighbor. I can't say the word because I'll get banned from YouTube, but let's just say that we don't make fun of some people. And his brother had a birthday party. And he said, Dave, I want to invite you to my birthday party. And because, his brother is somebody that we are not allowed to talk about, the leftists don't allow us to talk about it. He didn't have a lot of friends, so to have a birthday party and have friends come over is a big deal. And I said to my mother, I said, Steve's having a birthday party on Saturday. I want to go. And he's going to be serving pizza. And my mother said, I forbid you from going because Mike spits on the pizza. So you can figure out the rest. But that's what she said. So I had to tell Steve, I had to say, I'm sorry, I can't go. And every time my mother saw Steve, she always insulted him. She would always say, you have a dirty face. Why don't you go wash yourself? She was always saying stuff like that. By the way, Steve had a dirty face. There was actually a day when Steve came over and he said, oh, look, I washed my face. He made a comment like that. But he was always covered with dirt. One of the funny things is my mother would get angry. I was one of the forefront, the fashion industry. I was one of the fashion innovators with the ripped jeans. You know what I'm talking about. And sometimes you get grass stains. And I remember one day my mother bought a brand new pair of jeans. She said, do not let these get grass stains. Like the next day I came home with grass stains on the knee. And this was like the 10th time because you can't get them out. I had so many patches on my blue jeans. She had to do the inside and the outside. Okay, I'm going to tell more stories about my crazy mother. It'll be in another video. And look for the other videos in the series. I can't believe you're saying bad things about your mother. Mothers are saints. Yep. The crazy mother game. Oh, marks of excellence, I gotta check. This is going to be a video with stories about my crazy mother. There's going to be a couple games, and I know there's going to be somebody who's going to say, oh, you're so angry. It's like, come on, I'm just telling stories about my mother. I was angry about it when I was 18. I ain't angry about it. I'm 49 years old. Ain't angry about it. Okay, I told a lot of the good ones, and I forgot a lot of stories about my mother. Let's see, what is an interesting story? My mother got into a lot of car accidents. Well, it was mostly driving off the road because in the wintertime, if you're a bad driver, you're going to have accidents going off the road. And the reason why is because she's just an angry person. She hits the gas heavy and she hits the brakes heavy. She doesn't, she's not a smooth driver like me. If you saw the picture of my convertible, the black convertible, I did like 40,000 miles original set of brakes, and they only last like 15,000 miles. And the reason why was because, when light turns red, foot's off the gas, and it's manual transmission, put it into neutral, which apparently you're not allowed to do, but I did. and light would change green. Don't even have to hit the brakes. You know, that's what it's like in the suburbs. We don't live in the suburbs. So, story about my crazy mother. We had a fence between our house and the neighbor's house. And my mother hated the neighbor. So she would sometimes hang things on the fence. I guess she couldn't put any. And you know what? It's funny because we actually had fences on our property where she could have hung it that wasn't a neighbor's fence. And the neighbor would take the carpet and just throw it on the ground. And my mother was always like, I'm going to, nail this bitch. She would want to do something. Like, I remember them talking about throwing salt in the neighbor's lawn to kill the grass. So what other stories do I have? My mother would, there's certain foods that kids don't like liver. I didn't like lentil. And my mother would always tell us, afterwards, oh, by the way, the meatballs had liver in it. And I know what liver tastes like. Trust me, you know when you're eating liver. You can't sneak it on somebody. And I've had goat before. Goat and liver taste identical. Or maybe when I was eating the goat, maybe it was the liver of the goat. I don't know. But liver tastes absolutely horrible. And when I watch Happy Days, and say, oh, these kids don't want to eat their liver. Yeah, no, duh. Liver is horrible. Where do you get that camo? So my mother was always saying stuff like that. And she was always saying, one day I'm going to put liver in your food. She would say it with everything. And I remember one day she was serving lentil soup. So, I made your favorite lentil soup. And I was like, I don't like lentil soup. Why would you think I like lentil soup? Lentil soup is horrible. She said, you always say you like lentil soup. I never say I like lentil soup. I've never said that. We used to make fun of lentil soup. But, my mother being crazy, she lied all the time. She might have just been saying that she thought that she loved it. Because she's just a crazy person, right? There's something called a bay leaf. And you know how I know what a bay leaf is? And you know how I will remember what a bay leaf is for the rest of my life? If you don't know what it is, well, you're going to find out today. Today, you're going to find out what a bay leaf is. A bay leaf is like a food type thing, or it's associated with food and cooking. And you put it in foods such as soup, and maybe they call it a seasoning. I don't know. And they can be rather large. They could be big pieces or they could be small pieces. And if it's in your soup, there's a good chance, if you don't know what it is, that you would eat it. And it is razor sharp. And if you eat a bay leaf, you're going to, I can't say the word, but SLIT, a part of the inside of your esophagus. Yeah, I'm dead. And, I remember eating my soup. My effing mother. I'm willing to bet you she put that there on purpose. It was right on the top, and she put the soup in everybody's dishes. My mother's the type of person, she would have put it there on purpose just to cause me pain. And, I eat this thing. And I said, I'm screaming. He said, oh, you're not supposed to eat that. That's a bay leaf, she says. And at the time, I was like, okay, I'll watch out. I won't eat it again. And in the future, they were smaller, but I saw them and I removed them from the soup. But like I said, if you listen to my prank video, my mother used to play pranks on me all the time, cruel pranks. That's the type of thing she would do just because she's a horrible person. She probably, I 100% now believe that she probably put that leaf in there on purpose, just because she's a cruel person. I'm going to give you an example. I'll tell you a shoe story. Uh, one day I couldn't find my sneakers. Looking all around the house for like 15 minutes, and I'm like, my sneakers. And I would say, Mom, do you know where my sneakers are? This is what she would say. I don't wear your sneakers. And I would keep looking around for the sneakers, and say, Mom, I can't find my sneakers. I don't wear your sneakers. And then after like a half an hour of me looking all around the house, I said, Mom, I left them in the closet where all the shoes go. And I don't see them there, and they're not in my room, and they're not downstairs. I don't know where they are. She said, did you look outside? And I'm like, and I immediately go and look outside. My sneakers are outside. I thought, that's weird. And then like a month later, this always happens in the summertime. Then like a month later, can't find my sneakers. So I say, Mom, do you know where my sneakers are? I can't find my sneakers. I don't wear your sneakers. And I'm not saying it the way she says it. I'm toning it down for the benefit of neighbors here at the hotel who are listening to my conversation. So she would say, I don't wear your sneakers. And I would look around for like 15 minutes and can't find my sneakers. Say, Mom, I've been looking around. I looked in the front closet. I don't see them there. And I would literally go back and look 4 or 5 times. I'd take all the shoes out of the closet, and my mother would be sitting there watching me. Because I didn't know this at the time, but she was doing this on purpose, which you will understand later. I just thought my mother's crazy. And I would take all the shoes out. She's watching me, and I look in my room. I say, Mom, I can't find my sneakers. I looked in the closet. I looked downstairs. I looked in my room. I can't find my sneakers. She would say, did you look outside? And I'd go outside, and my shoes would be outside. And then, maybe next year, same thing. You'd forget about it, and you're looking around. And remember, it's not like I'm 25 years old and I can't find my shoes. I'm young when this is going on, because she would play these cruel pranks on me. And then one day, I couldn't find my shoes. And I said, Mom, do you know where my sneakers are? I can't find my shoes. She says, I don't wear your sneakers. I was like, oh, they're probably outside. So I go out the front door. My shoes are outside. Now, the way it is with my mother, you do not question her. You just do what she says, and that's it. You just live with it. You just had my dream. I was always thinking, when I'm 18, I'm out of here. That's how I survived through it. So, month later, can't find my shoes. And I immediately go outside. And I'm looking all around the house. They're not outside, not in the closet, not in the basement, not in my room. I say, Mom, I can't find my sneakers. And she said, I don't wear your sneakers. And, I'm looking around, can't find my sneakers. Go outside. The last time she did this, she always left them outside in the front door. But she didn't do it. I mean, they're not there. And she sees me looking around for like a half an hour, take all the shoes out of the closet, and there's like 20 pairs of shoes in the closet. Because, when you get older, you buy a new pair of boots, you're going to save the old pair. Especially if you got to have winter boots and gardening boots and summer boots and rain boots and cowboy boots and girl boy boots and all that crap. So she makes a comment, did you check the backyard? It's like, and I'm thinking my mother's crazy. I go look in the backyard, and my shoes are out in the backyard. I don't think that was the last time she did it, but that was near the last time. I guess she ran out of outside places to put it. So I think maybe she did it one more time again, where she put it out in the backyard. And I went, looked out in the front, weren't there, went out in the back, found them in the back, and that was it. And maybe at that point, I just would never ask my mother ever again, do you know where my sneakers are? But that's the type of person my mother was. So another example is auto aim. Oh, we're in assault defend mode, so I got to be a little bit more aggressive. I'm going to sneak around. See, I'm the leader for my team. They're going to sit in the back, and it doesn't matter if you got a fast tank or a slow tank or a light tank. Got to line up the shot, but my team cannot advance until I take this tank out. And he doesn't have to do anything. So my allies can wait if they want. But if I have to die, I'm going to do it. I'm a team leader. So one day, I don't remember exactly what happened, but there was something wrong with the food. Maybe my mother gave me something to eat. And now keep in mind, my mother plays pranks on me. So she might intentionally take my food and go throw it in the dirt just so that she could play a prank on me, right? I had to do that because he was spotted. There's no way we're going to cross over. I rely on my allies. It looks like they did both fire. They didn't get to take them out, though. But if we don't do that, we lose the game. So that's something that you got to do. And I don't care about win rate except for the fact that I am working on the gun marks. But I still want to do what I think is right for the team because these guys are never going to leave this position. You see, they're not leaving. They're going to stay there. Okay, so and they have to do it in order to win. So one day, my mother gave me some food like an apple, and it was dirty. I said, Mom, can you wash this? Now, keep in mind, for me to ask my mother to wash an apple means that I'm not like 13 or 14 years old. I had to be like 8 years old. My mother would say, when I was your age, if I dropped an apple in the mud, I'd pick it up and eat it. And I heard her say this more than once. That's the way my mother was. And another example is if I ever had an injury that required a Band-Aid, you can see where this is going. If I said, Mom, can I have a Band-Aid? Keep in mind, not 12 or 13. I know where the Band-Aids are. I know where the Band-Aids are. They were within reach of me even as an 8-year-old. But if I was a kid and said, Mom, can I have a Band-Aid? She would say, you're not bleeding to death. That's what my mother would say. And she said it many times to me. And that it wasn't, you're not bleeding to death. Oh, by the way, I'll go get you the Band-Aid. You know, if I'm bleeding, she would just say, you're not bleeding to death. And I mean, I could have gotten an infection and died. And I could have gotten gangrene and lost my arm. So she said that to me many times. That's obviously why I remember it. Yeah, my mother was a crazy person. She was a horrible person. So a lot of mothers, they make lunch for their kids to go to school. And then you're going to say, oh, well, my mother made my mother did not make my lunch when I went to school. I had to make my own lunch. And I would make bologna and cheese sandwich, apple, and maybe like a little applesauce container that comes in a little plastic. That was my lunch every day. And the kids would always make fun of me. You know, Italians, we eat something called Nutella. And they'd say, why are you eating chocolate for lunch? It's hazelnut. I would always say, it's hazelnut. I was ashamed. I loved Nutella. So, one day, I don't remember what grade we were in. It was like 5th grade. And I'm making my own lunch, you know. And we did this thing. It was like Valentine's Day. And they did a auction. It was a lunch auction where you would sell your lunch for like $1 or something like that. I don't remember how it worked, but it was low price, like $1, $2, $3. And these kids came in with these elaborate lunches with all sorts of drawings and designs on the boxes and bags, and they had always like, you know, cream-filled vanilla ice cream cake or whatever, frozen and pre-packaged with a caramel pie, and they just had these really elaborate lunches with these elaborate boxes, and all the containers were huge. And I just had a little paper bag with bologna and cheese sandwich and an apple. And mine sold for the least amount. I don't know if anybody bought it, but whoever bought it was really disappointed about it, right? And I loved pizza, so I heard the word pizza, and I don't know what it was, but I bought it. And it ends up it wasn't pizza. It was pizza-flavored potato chips or something. So I was disappointed with that because I misheard. So what I realized is every other student had their parent, probably the mother, make their lunch. And I realized, my mother never made my lunch. And they have all these amazing lunches, and I got this little boring lunch. And I know that I don't really care. I just eat, even though it wasn't necessarily the healthiest. But the other kids notice when you're at lunch and you got this little paper bag and you got a bologna and cheese sandwich, and they see you eat that every day. And I noticed that they had like Twinkies and Ho-Hos and all that stuff. And I was always like, oh, my family, we're not rich Americans. We can't afford your rich yellow cakes, your yellow fruit cake. There's more to the story. Okay, the breakfast part. One day, somebody was over visiting, and my mother said, I'm going to make you breakfast. What do you want? It was a friend from college. It was when I was in college. And my mother never made me breakfast. And I know you say, oh, what do you mean? Mothers always make breakfast. No. My mother, oh yeah, shot of the year. That's like the 5th shot of the year. My mother never made me breakfast. I had toast for breakfast every day because that's the extent of my knowledge of cooking. So when I was a kid, I would have toast for breakfast. One day, my mother said, I'm going to make you breakfast. I was in college. I was a freshman in college. I had a friend over that I had met. He was from the Bronx. And she said, I'm going to make you breakfast. He stayed overnight. And she said, what would you like for breakfast? I said, oh, yeah, just make the usual. And she said, well, what's the usual? And you see, I caught her. So I could tell my friends, see, my mother doesn't know what I eat for breakfast. So don't ever tell me that mothers are perfect and they do everything for their kids and all mothers are bastions of hope and love and they would never hurt a child, all that bunch of crap. So one of the issues I had with my mother was that she would ask me, what do you want for breakfast? But that's not what you're going to get. And you're going to say, well, you ask for too much. No, incorrect. The opposite would happen. You can say, no, that's impossible. Nope, not impossible. She wanted to impress somebody, so she would make more than I would ask for. So, as an example, she'd say, what do you want for breakfast? Oh, I just want eggs, just scrambled eggs. And that's it. So you want bacon bits? No, I don't want any bacon bits. I'm going to put bacon bits in it anyway. That's my mother. And you're going to get the eggs with the bacon bits. And she doesn't do it, like I said, because she's a wonderful mother. She's doing that because the guest is there. And she wants the guest to think that she's a wonderful mother. So she would do this sort of thing. For example, Italians, we make tomato sauce. And if you watch all my videos, you'll hear me talk about the process we go through. Because it takes like a week to make 100 jars of tomato sauce. I really don't remember. I was a guy who turned the crank on the machine. And I like 3 types of sauce. I like meat sauce, plain, and mushroom. My grandmother would make the best sauce. My mother's sauce was not that great. My father's sauce was better. Both grandmothers were good. And I know the secret. 4 types of meat: chicken, beef, pork, and lamb. That's how you make a meat sauce. And then you remove the meat after it's cooked, and then it's got the flavor of 4 different types of meat. So, my mother would say, I'm going to make you tomato sauce. How many jars you want? 1. She's always going to make more. She put so many mushrooms, because she would pack it, but then she would make it so that I couldn't see what was in there. She put so many mushrooms that it was not tomato sauce with mushroom. It was mushroom with a little bit of tomato sauce. That's literally what it would be. You hold it and say, why did your mother give you a jar of mushrooms? And it wouldn't be like 1. It would be like 20 jars. And I'm like, my mother is insane. And she doesn't make this. She never makes it this way. She only makes it for me because she is a crazy person. She's not doing this because, I love my child. She's doing this because she's just a weird pranker. Holy cow, whatever they did. Okay, I don't care. So, another prank that my mother did, she worked in a clothing store. One day, she said, that shirt's for you. It was an ugly shirt. No boy wants to wear a baby blue shirt. It was baby blue. Had to have been 1980, so I was 9 years old. Because we went to Washington, D.C. No, 8 years old. We went to Washington, D.C. My mother says, pack 3 shirts and 3 pairs of shorts, 3 pairs of underwear, 3 pairs of socks. We're going to Washington, D.C. We said, okay. So I go upstairs and I get what she asked for. This was a couple months later. Now keep in mind, my mother works in a clothing store. And she buys all the clothing at super cheap prices. Like when it's $2, she'll buy something for me. So it's always stuff that other people don't want, right? So if you watch my other videos, you'll know my mother refused to wash my clothes. So I didn't go up in the closet and open it and then there's like 30 pairs of clean shirts. Oh, I'm going to pick this happy shirt. I had like 2 shirts to pick from. So I pick the one that's baby blue and 1 other shirt. And I bring everything downstairs and put it where the luggage was. We go to Washington, D.C. She said, get dressed the next day. Going through the luggage, she said, Mom, I can't find my clothes. So I didn't pack it. I was like, why? She said, that shirt was ugly. And I was like, you bought that shirt. I didn't buy that shirt. So that's why I thought my mother was stupid. What do you mean you didn't buy the shirt? You bought the shirt. You bought it at this clothing store you work at. I didn't buy it. I remember the day you bought it and gave it to me and I didn't want it. So, but she wasn't. She was lying to me and she was pranking me. She wanted me to wear the same clothes every day. So she was playing this prank on me where she didn't pack everything. So I had to wear the same clothes every day. That's the type of thing my mother did to me. And at the time I had no clue. It wasn't until now when I'm in my 40s where I'm thinking about it. And I'm like, it was literally just today when I realized, okay, that's another one of her pranks. She did that because she wants me to wear the same clothes every day because it was in the movie Mommy Dearest, where the mother, Joan Crawford, did it to her daughter because she wore the wrong jacket to school, which the mother thought was not appropriate or some crap like that. So that's the type of person my mother was. Obviously, there's other things. Lots of this pranking stuff. Whenever she could try to say, no, it wasn't me, it was you, she would do it. The other thing my mother did was she would yell at me, even if I didn't do anything wrong. She would yell at me. It's like, I'm not yelling at you because you did something wrong, but I'm yelling at you because I know you will do something wrong. But she wasn't right. She was wrong. She was making false accusations against me. Like one day I was making a sandwich for lunch. She was in a hurry. She was leaving, and she yelled at me for leaving crumbs. And I said, I'm not leaving crumbs. Not only am I not leaving crumbs, look at what I'm doing. I had like a piece of plastic on the counter, and I had the bread carefully cutting the bread over the plastic and putting all the crumbs right into the trash. It was right there. And even though she saw that was what I was doing, she said, no, you're not. You're leaving crumbs. That's the way my mother was. So then, like a short time later, I caught my mother cutting some bread, and she just left the crumbs. I said, Mom, you're leaving crumbs. And she flipped out. She is permitted to leave crumbs. And apparently my brother and my sister are also. Another thing she did, she divorced my father. She waited for him to go to work, and then she calls in sick, and then she goes home. She rents a moving truck. She moved everything out of the house. That's the type of thing. And you remember, she cheated on him. It's not like he cheated on her. Oh, F you, man. So one of the things she did, you're going to see a common theme, she took all of my father's clothes, so he had no clothes. And she only left one shirt. Oh, I actually killed him. She only left one shirt in the closet, which was the shirt she hates the most, that he wears the most. It was a plaid shirt. That's the person my mother is. And nobody believes the story. Everybody says, no, your mother would never do that. Why would somebody do such a thing? My mother's crazy. Welcome to the world of crazy women. You think I'm going to lose? No. That's a wonderful tank. I love that tank. So if you just joined me, I'm telling stories, crazy stories about my mother. I'm not doing it because I am angry. I'm 49. I'm not angry about my mother. I'm doing it just to have interesting commentary on my channel. There's other commentary I want to do, but YouTube will ban all of it because I like to talk about current events. And I already got my current events channel banned for talking about a subject that you're not allowed to talk about, which, no, you can talk about it only if you say that lots of bad things happened. If you say, well, this actually here, I can't find where it says that this happened. Oh, banned. No, it doesn't go by what's written on paper. It goes by belief, unfortunately. Okay, more stories about my crazy mother, because we know you're not sick of it. You want to hear more. You'll notice I'm using this thingy, which means that they should track me less often. He might not have he does not have sixth sense. One of the things you got to remember. And he's got this thingy because I expect to do a lot of combat. I'm going to take a quick 1-minute break, and then we'll get back to Crazy Mother Story. Nobody is watching this. Everybody's like, oh, not listening to this crazy shit. be a fun game. Okay, so this is a live stream. Maybe it's a poor choice. Is that Highway? I'm telling stories about my crazy mother. And I'm putting it on my main channel not because I'm angry. I'm doing it because of the commentary value. So I'm going to tell you some stories because truth can be stranger than fiction. My mother was an absolute nut job. She was a complete whack job. And as an example, this is a perfect map for this tank. She was always angry. And she's always yelling at us and always saying, she's going to kick us out of the car and make us walk home, which we had to do sometimes. But like on the way to church, she was always really bad. And she always made it sound like us kids were the problem. And it's like, no, you're the problem, And she would always be saying, why are we fighting? We're at church. And she would be yelling and screaming up until the point where we opened the door to enter the church. And my opinion as a child is that you're the one yelling and screaming and angry. We're just here listening to your anger. So, and then as soon as we leave church, she's back to yelling again. Take an extra sharp turn. You notice how I did a really sharp turn? These guys don't understand how I outpower them. I'm going to get out of here. I did 1200 spot, nothing special. But you notice that when they damaged my wheel, I kept on going at full speed. You see what? Because I equipped everything to optimize it with everything. Okay. So on to my crazy mother. I'm running out of tanks to play with. So my mother was absolutely crazy. And as we got older, when I say older, I mean we were still young. Like, could have been 11 or 12 years old. She wouldn't go to church anymore. And she was the type of person who says, my sister, Joanne, would spend the day with her. And us boys would be with my father. And we would go to church, my father, my brother, and I. So we could curse God. And this one's going to level up soon. I could play the EBR wheeled vehicle. So we would go to church, but at some point my father stopped going with us. And my brother and I went by ourselves, which means we had to walk to church. So we would put on nice clothes Sunday morning. We'd walk. It was like 1.5 miles to church. And I don't remember if we walked in the wintertime. I really don't remember. But we would walk to church, walk home, and I didn't understand what was going on, but there must have been something going on that we don't know about. Like, at some point you start saying, why does my mom not go to church? Why does my sister not go to church? I didn't understand. And we went to Sunday school. And my sister, I don't want to get into too many sister stories, but she married a guy. My sister's a Sunday school teacher. And when I found out, I was there, she said, I teach Sunday school. I was like, you teach Sunday school? You go to church? Her husband's totally religious. She lied to her husband. She I don't think she ever said, no, when I was a kid, I refused to go to church. She just refused to go. But my mother just let her do whatever she wanted. So I'm going to tell some stories about my mother. This is my Crazy Mother series. If you watch all of my videos on all of my channels, you'll find a lot of stories about my crazy, nutty mother. Let's see if I can find something. Okay, so my mother used to test my father around the holidays. She would say offensive things and insult him at dinner. And at the time, I didn't know why, but she would say it because she was planning to insult him in front of the family. And one day she said something insulting, and my father, he doesn't care. He's like me. Like if you come up to me and insult me, I'm only going to care so much. I'm not going to cry over it. You called me a name. I will make fun of you over it. So my father really didn't care about what she said. I'm not going to say what she said. But then at dinner, holiday dinner, she said it in front of everybody. And my aunt, this was like 30 years ago, my aunt still remembers because my aunt mentioned it like 2 years ago to me. I can't believe the time your mother stood up in front of us and said that. And I said to her, no, she planned that, she tested. And it wasn't the first time. She did it when I was younger. But when I was younger, I didn't understand what was going on. I just knew that sometimes she insulted my father at the dinner table. A lot of issues with my mother, huge number, had to do with food. Could go on and on about food-related things. So when I was a kid, my mother insisted we eat 3 adult servings of whatever it was she served. We are Italian, which means spaghetti. That's what Italians eat. So we would have spaghetti every meal. We'd have spaghetti. Oh, I screwed that up. So you would have these Syracuse china flatware, and she would fill it up with spaghetti. And then when you're done, she would give you a second serving. And you cannot say no. And everybody always says the same thing. Oh, I would just say I don't want any. Yeah, right. You're a little 12-year-old or an 8-year-old, and you're going to say that to my mother. Right. So she would insist 3 servings. And I was just a small child. I was so fat as a kid. Because they believed that being fat was a sign of wealth. That's what they believed. I heard it so many times. Eat, manja. And that's why I'm fat as an adult. So she would insist 3 servings. And your dumb friends are always, oh, I would just put my hands over my... No, you wouldn't. Because, no, you would try. But what my mother would do is she would yell at you to move your hands. And she didn't say, oh, please move your hands. No, she would say, move your hands. That's the way she would say it. You had no choice. If she didn't do it, she'd make your life a living hell. And, she had ways, she was constantly making my life a hell. So I was forbidden from eating anything other than what she stated I could eat. She insisted that I eat the 3 servings. She would yell like crazy. She would hit me with her wooden spoon. Even when I was 18, I had to stare at that damn spoon at the dinner table. And she would like to brag about it in front of relatives. And of course, when relatives are over, that means you're going to get hit more often. Doesn't mean you're going to get hit less often. Because she needs to show off her power and authority. My mother's authoritarian. And my father was the exact opposite. So, one of the things that my mother did, she had a rule. If you don't eat your food, if you don't eat the amount of food that I tell you to eat, you have to sit at the dining room table until it's time to go to sleep or until you eat the food. And it's like, it's spaghetti. It's not like I don't like to eat spaghetti, but I literally ate so much one day that I threw up. And she wouldn't care. I was like, child throwing up, to her, it's nothing. She never thought, oh, maybe he's eating too much food. And I literally could feel the food in my throat. So for years, I spend my evening sitting at the dining room table just staring at a plate of food. And she always says the same thing you heard before. I'm going to save it for you and you're going to eat it tomorrow. That never actually happened. Maybe a few times I said, Mom, I'm hungry. She said, here's last night's food. Maybe she did it a few times. But the number of times she said she was going to do it versus the amount of times she actually did it, she probably said it hundreds of times. She probably actually did it like 4 or 5. The other thing, she would claim that we had to eat 3 plates of pasta so she doesn't have leftovers. That was her claim. And I really don't remember if she demanded that my siblings eat that much, but she did demand that I do. Got to think of some more funny. I think that they're funny stories. They're just interesting stories about my mother. She was so fat and lazy. What was it? Well, she did some things that I would not say because the video would be banned and they'd close my account down. So unfortunately, you're not going to get that. But let's just say that there's certain things that people consider inexcusable in parental behavior. I remember this happened during a presidential debate. It was Ross Perot. So I was waiting to listen to Ross Perot. My mother's policy was, when she wanted to talk to us, if we were in the living room watching TV, she would just go stand in front of the TV and start yelling at us. And I was waiting for like hours and hours because they don't say when the candidate's going to be on. I don't know if he was on the news or giving a speech or if it was, I don't think it was a debate. I think he was making some sort of a statement. And I really didn't know much about him at the time, so I was waiting all day long for him to come on. And as soon as he came on, my mother jumps in front of the TV. I wonder if she knew I was waiting for, because that's what she would do. My mother's the type of person that if I told her, I'm going to go downstairs because Ross Perot is going to speak, she would find out when he's going to speak, come down, stand in front of the TV. And she stood in front of the TV, and that was the last time. She had done it so many times, and that made me so angry that time. I said, get the F out. I don't know if I said it that way, because you can't swear around my mother, you know. I said, get out of the way. And she stood there long enough until he finished speaking, and I missed everything he said. And I said, I can't believe I waited all day long to listen to him, and then you stood in front of the TV, and I didn't get to hear what he had to say. And she thinks, and then she would say, I wonder why my kids don't like me. It's like, duh. She's so dumb. That's the reason why. She's a horrible person. I don't tolerate this type of behavior in people. When I meet somebody who's mean to somebody, I tell them off. You know, I'm not mean to people. I will tell somebody, you know, what you said was mean. If they actually mean it in a mean way. You know, if they're just joking, that's different. But if they're like, I'm going to, I don't want to say something that's going to get me banned. You're banned. You've been deported. So, other crazy mother stories. Oh, okay, here's another one. When we were children, we had a toy chest which had all of our toys in it. When my mother got angry, she would come downstairs. She would take our toy chest and she would just dump everything all over the floor and she would say, pick it up. Pick up your toys. No, if we had left out one toy, she would say, David, come downstairs. You'd go downstairs. What's that? It's Joanne's Weeble Wobble toy. I don't care. Pick it up. I said, that's Joanne's. Joanne left it out. I don't care. And then she would take the toy chest, which, it's a typical size toy chest. Dump everything all over the place. Pick everything up. And she didn't do it once. And that's not the way you treat a child. But that's what she did. I'm going to hide. That looks like a good hiding spot right there. This is not hiding. This is being out in the open longer than you should be. So another thing that my mother liked to do. Now, for those of you, no, mothers are saints. Yeah, this is one of the stories. My mother would take all of my belongings in my bedroom and throw them out the window. So sometimes I would come home and all of my stuff would be all over the front lawn. And the first time I did it, I'd come home and it's like, why are all these bed sheets on the front lawn and all this clothes? It's like, wait a second, is that my shirt? Why is my shirt on the front lawn? And then I would go inside, and my mother would always be waiting for me, and she would say, I threw all of your stuff on the front lawn. And then she would tell me why. It was never a valid reason why. Who knows? You know, she's a complete nut. So then this happened, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. And one day I saw her do it. And watching my mother throw clothes out a window, it's like, man, you should get a job doing this. You're so good at it, man. She could get a job throwing stuff out windows. She's a total expert. I saw her throwing clothes out the window like a mad woman. How quickly she opens up all the drawers, throws everything out the window, takes all the bed sheets, throws it out the window, anything breakable, all breakable stuff. We got to talk about that too. Now, this might be something she saw in the movie Mommy Dearest. I don't know. But she did it to me many times. And there were times I just came home from school, all my stuff's out the window. And once, the day that I saw her doing it, I just started running outside, picking stuff up. So another example of a crazy thing my mother would do. In my house, if I left something in the house that she saw that was not in my room, she'd throw it away. Doesn't matter what it is. So I'd like, Mom, I had a piece of paper and I left it on the living room table. I threw it away. No, she would always say, I don't know what happened to your paper. But at some point I discovered what she was doing was throwing it away. And if she saw me like with a piece of paper, she might say, don't leave that piece of paper on the table or I'm going to throw it away. So I put 2 and 2 together. She was throwing my stuff away. And I had a Walkman. But I think the Walkmans, they had a little string that you would use to change the radio station. And you had to turn a little dial. And sometimes the string would break. So I'd open it and put the string back on, close it up. I used to fix stuff. So one day I'm working on it and I didn't finish it. It was all taken apart. And I don't know why I left it out, but I came back later. See, before this, I didn't know she was throwing my stuff away. I just knew that stuff was disappearing. After this, I said, Mom, do you know where my Walkman is? Oh, your radio? I threw it away. So why did you throw it away? It's broken. It's like, it wasn't broken. I was fixing it. My mother doesn't ask. She just throws things away. So another thing that my mother would do, for those of you who are joining, I'm telling stories about my crazy mother. Not because I'm angry. I'm saying it so I can get all that amazing, interesting commentary on my website. Mothers are so wonderful and loving. They love all their children. I forgot a good one about her throwing stuff away. So my mother sometimes would say, I'm going to clean your room. Okay, Mom, I'll see you later. When she would say that, what she meant to say was, I'm going to go through your room and throw everything away. And I would come home and she would have thrown just tons of stuff away. And I learned that was her code. Whenever she said she was going to clean my room, that meant she was going to throw stuff away. Now, keep in mind, my mother never made my bed or folded my clothes or anything like that. We were completely on our own. when I got older, I was working at Burger King, and I would come home at 1 a.m. Or no, we closed at 1 a.m. I would get home at 2. It took half an hour to close because I work at lightning speed. And 15-minute drive home, and then I would watch SCTV and the show with the super excited guy from outer space. Welcome to the miracle world of outer space. Into the cosmos. Stargazer. So I'd watch that. I'd watch SCTV. I'd go to sleep around 2 o'clock. 6 in the morning, my mother's vacuuming in my room on a Sunday morning. And she would wake me up and say, what time you got to go to work? 8 p.m. You know I go to work at 8 p.m. I work the night shift. And she would get angry. I know that she's vacuuming on purpose because she knows I am working late on Saturday night. Doesn't matter how many times you tell her I get home after 2 a.m. on Saturday night because I work late. Doesn't matter. She doesn't care. So every Sunday she's vacuuming my room at 6 a.m. Crazy, crazy mother. So I started locking my door. She had a rule we were not allowed to close our doors. And for many years I did not have a door because she ripped it off the wall. That's not true. Yeah, it's true. So, so at this point I had locked my door. She would bang on my door. And she would use the vacuum cleaner and she would bang the door with the vacuum cleaner. And I was like, I know you're just doing this to annoy me now. There's no reason for you to bang the door with the vacuum cleaner. And she insists that she has to vacuum on Sunday morning. And she always has to say, what time do you have to work today? She always has to wake me up. And it's always the same answer, 8 p.m. I work the night shift. I got home at 2 a.m. Same thing every week. And she pretended, I don't know. She pretended to be stupid, but she wasn't. She knew what she was doing. She was always pranking me and being mean to me. Let's see if I can think of another story. I think of them and then I forget them before I have time to tell the story. When we were a kid, there was a day when we had left our toys out, and she said, no more toys. And, I didn't take her seriously, but that was it. That was the last time we had toys. She threw away everything except for Legos and Matchbox cars. So she literally cleaned us out of toys. And I'm guessing, I don't know why she gave us the Legos and the Matchbox cars. I have no idea. It's possible that it's because we hid them in our rooms or something. I don't know. But she just threw away all the toys. And we were not, I'm not talking about like we're 15 years old and she's throwing our toys away. I mean, my brother and me, our toys. My sister's, she's 4.5 years younger. Her toys were not included. I don't think she was born yet. My brother and I, we were probably like 8 years old or something like that. So when we were kids, we had like nothing. All the toys that we had were tossed. And something happened. I was too young to understand. But something happened in the summertime regarding the swimming pool. My brother's crazy also. My brother does crazy stuff like try to set the house on fire, stuff like that. So he did something. He was throwing toys in the swimming pool. We're not talking about in-ground pool. We just had the little tiny pool for children to play in. Like a plastic pool that's a foot deep. So I want to go after that guy because he's low hit points. You know what? They're going to take out him. So we'll go after this guy. And I'm going to load up the gold rounds. So my brother did something where he was throwing toys in the pool. And I kind of remember it happening, and my mother was busy on the phone. So she only knew that we were having fun and laughing. But that was another day that she forbade us. It was always, you are now forbidden from from leaving the house. You are now forbidden from having toys. You are now forbidden from having anything. She forbade me from having friends. She didn't like the neighbor because she was too loud. So she forbade me from being friends with her neighbor, the neighbor's kids, and he happened to be my only friend. Yeah, that's my mother. He died. He died of alcohol poisoning. My mother was always blaming me for things that she did. And you know, my sister learned from that behavior. So my sister would do the same thing. F you, man. F you. You gotta take evasive action because he'll fire here again. I got a lot of hit points, and that T-34 doesn't. So I do want to go after him. Screw that up. But I also got to be careful. We don't know what we don't know how smart these SPGs are. My mother also took some money from me once. What happened was she paid us. She gave me a $20 bill, which was payment. No, my father said, "I'm going to give you $20 if you and your brother clean up this pile of cardboard." So, you know, I was just a kid. I didn't even have pockets in my clothes. And I put the 20, I was just a child. My job was to pick up the cardboard. I put the money on my waistband. That's how dumb I was. A $20 bill. My mother found it. She then used it to extort me. She said, "If you don't eat your dinner tonight, you're not getting the 20." My brother started crying. And I cried, and I refused to eat, and I didn't get the 20 or my share. I'm hoping somebody. Oh, we don't have SPGs. So I'm telling stories about my mother, what a crazy person she was. So you can all be educated as to what crazy is. You know what? I got the hit points, so I'm going to go up over here. He's a beefier target. Remember, I am going to get nailed. Ah, I screwed it up. Screwed it up. That was really dumb. I should have gone back and regrouped with my ally or something. Trying to think if I can think of any more crazy stories about my mother. Oh yeah, I do have one more. My sister, for those of you who are just joining us on this amazing live stream, I'm telling true stories about my mother and how crazy she is. My sister was always taking my stuff. Like if there was money in my room, she would go in and find it and put it in her piggy bank. And the reason why I knew is because one day I caught her doing it. And she always be laughing and have this big smile on her face. And it's like I could sit in my room and see her doing it. I didn't have to leave my room. One day I caught her going in my room and stealing some money. So my sister was always taking my stuff. And we're not talking about small things. She took my photography camera. She took back then it was a big deal. I needed it for school. I did photography in school. She took my binoculars, other things. If she took something of mine or clothing, I would go to my mother and say, Mom, Joanne took my binoculars. My mother would say, let her have it. That was it. They were not mine anymore. If my sister claimed something, that was it. It was no longer the ownership of me. I need it for my photography class for college. Nope, it's your sister's now. Let her have it. So another example is so my mother never gave us Christmas presents or birthday presents. Nothing. Oh, no, wait, she did, but I'm going to give you the list of all the Christmas presents that I got. I received a painting of a duck, and I received a wicker chest, and index cards, and a pair of scissors. That's the extent that I can. 2 years in a row I got the index cards. I shall explain. The painting she probably got it cheap from work because she worked at a department store, clothing store. The wicker basket she probably also got from the clothing store. The brain, I don't know where she got that. Gonna park under here for the SPG. Meet your maker, buddy. So, no birthday parties. No, I had 2 birthday parties. I had one when I was like 10 years old, and I had one when I was like 16. And that was it. And my mother kind of said, I want to have a party for David because, he's going to go to college soon. So I might as well have a party before he leaves because, it'll be the last time. And it was literally merely the second time. She should have said, this will be the second time he has a party. That was a mistake. I should not have switched targets. My sister had birthday parties every year. I don't care. It was always, she's a girl. I heard that so many times. She's a girl. She gets a birthday party because she's a girl. So, no Christmas, no birthday. I'm going to tell some quick stories. The wicker basket I used as a container to hold video game cartridges for the Atari 2600. And the painting just sat on the floor, I guess, or I put it in the closet. So you're going to say your mother did not give you index cards for Christmas. And I'm going to say, oh, yes, she did. I shall explain. So when I was in 10th grade, this is how weird my mother is. Talking about 10th grade. I said to my mother, I'm probably 16 years old. So, Mom, I need, first week of school, Mom, my teacher said we need 5x7 index cards for class because he wants us to put our notes on index cards. Can you please take me to Kmart so I can get index cards? Can you please buy me index cards? Not 3x5, 5x7. So my mother, never did. I'd say go a week later, Mom, did you buy me the index cards? What index cards? It's always like she has no idea what I'm talking about, right? I told you last week. You didn't tell me anything. This is exact conversation, and I heard this more than once. Typical conversation. She did. She was just lying. So then I hear her say she was going to Kmart. Oh, Mom, can I go with you? I need index cards. No, just me and Joanne. I need index cards for school. I would be begging her. So teacher got mad at me. I didn't have index cards. Everybody else has 5x7 index cards. So I went to the drugstore, Try Our Drugs. Video game, telling funny anecdote story. Please do not ban this video, YouTube. They don't have 5x7 index cards at the drugstore. They have 3x5. Keep in mind, this is August or September, whenever school starts. What do I get for Christmas? Index cards, 3x5. Why'd you buy me index cards? You saying you want index cards. 10th grade. 11th grade comes around. My mother buys me index cards for Christmas. Why'd you buy me index? You always say you want index cards. That's what you want for Christmas. She was pranking me. That was a prank gift. Oh, she was big into prank gifts. Now, keep in mind, I needed it the year before. She never gave it to me, and the teacher makes it sound like I'm the bad one. My mother thought that for Christmas we should get charcoal, a lump of charcoal, and an onion. So that's what we got. 18 Christmases, we would get an onion and a lump of charcoal. And my father would give us like $20. Say, here, here's $20. Here's your Christmas gift. I know it sounds like my father doesn't care, but he was actually way better than my mother. He's very caring like me. There were other stories, I need to write it all down. I actually kept a record, but right. I had a website where I made a list of all the crazy things that my sister did because she just went nuts one day. It was when my father died. She just started going crazy. So I wrote everything down in a notebook, and it was like 30 pages long, everything that happened. And it was just like short sentences, like 5 words. She did this, she did that, because I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And the server just disappeared one day, and I had no idea why. And I contacted the company like 20 times. They refused to respond to me. I always wondered, did my sister get that server shut down? If she did, then she knows what I think about. Well, it's not what I think about her. It's a list of everything that she did. Things like when my father died, she didn't tell us where the grave site was. Just weird stuff. And I didn't know that my sister hated my father. That's when I learned that she hated my father. I'm going to stop recording here. Crazy Mother Part 5. So I am telling stories about my crazy mother. These are all true stories. I'm not making any of it up. And I'm just doing it for commentary. I'm not doing it because I'm angry. I'm 49. It's not like, why would I be angry about something that happened when I was 17? And a lot of times I realize things now about my mother that I didn't understand when I was 18. Like what a crazy person she was. So, where did I leave it off under part 5? It was, don't remember. But I will remember. She was an ultra feminist. So my whole childhood, all I heard was feminist stuff. And you know what? Any feminist comes up to me, I have zero sympathy for you. There is no feminist argument that you will ever make to me that will ever sway me to your cause, because I heard it from my mother every day of my childhood, and I got sick of it. I will outright tell you, if you are a feminist and you have a son, your son is going to hate life. You're going to make your son hate his life. My mother said crazy stuff all the time, and I had to unlearn her crazy. I guess I got spotted. I don't know. So I'm not going to get into the feminist crap because I get sick and tired of talking about it, and people are so touchy about it, and the man's always wrong anyway. So, I was talking about Christmas-related things. My mother hated lots of people, and they knew it. So she was always making everybody's life miserable. So what she did was she insisted that my aunt's Christmas gifts be wrapped in newspaper instead of Christmas wrapping paper. And everyone else had Christmas wrapping paper except for my aunt. And she didn't do it. She said, oh, she's going to love it. No. She hated it. She got so angry. And she didn't speak English. My aunt didn't speak English. She always spoke in Italian. So when she was sitting there at Christmas and she saw the gift come out for Aunt Teresa, and it's wrapped in newspaper, she says, why is my Christmas gift wrapped in paper? I want a Christmas gift wrapped in real Christmas paper. And my mother says, that's what you're going to get. And my mother would berate her and say, you take the gift I give you. You don't tell me what gift I give you. She plans all this stuff. She says, I'm going to insult this person. I got to figure out how I'm going to insult her. I know, I'll wrap her gift in newspaper, and then when she complains about it, I'll say, you either take it or leave it. You take it and be happy, or whatever. She bullied everybody. Nobody liked her. So for those of you who are just joining, I'm just telling stories about my crazy mother. Not because I'm angry, but because of the commentary value. People don't believe these stories, but they are true. I don't want to say too much that involves my siblings. Maybe I'll play one more game. Because, sometimes my siblings do something to manipulate my parents. They did that. And I could talk just as long about crazy things my siblings did. Excuse me. When we were kids, one day I told one of my relatives the way my mother was. He said, my mother yells all the time, and she's angry, and she throws my things out the window, and she throws things at me, and she slaps me, and she hits me with the wooden spoon every day. And I don't know what happened between those relatives, because they were distant relatives. We only saw them like once a month. But it was like maybe her sister-in-law or something. But after that, I was not permitted to visit my relatives anymore. So what would happen is my brother and sister would visit them, and I would have to go visit my father's relatives, my grandmother, who just spoke in Italian. She never spoke to me about anything. She just sat there knitting or whatever. That was her thing. My mother said the reason why is because the kids don't get along. But it wasn't because the kids don't get along. It was because I told somebody that my mother was abusive. When I was 8 years old, I wanted to run away from home. I literally plotted running away from home to get away from my mother. And I actually went to the library to find a map of Syracuse to figure out how to get out of the city, but I didn't know where to go. I was 8. It's like, where do I go? Like, even if I get to outside the city of Syracuse, because I wanted to be gone forever. It wasn't like I was a cry for help. I said I wanted to be gone forever, got to leave the city. And I was like, I'm going to go to Florida. And I used to daydream about being in a foster home. That was what I daydream about as a kid. You don't know how horrible. I was a foster child. You don't know it. You don't want to be a foster child. That's what people are going to post in the comments. My mother, I overheard her tell my relatives not to buy me Christmas presents. One day, she was standing there. I guess she didn't know I was listening. I mean, I was really sitting within listening distance. And she said, don't buy David Christmas presents anymore. She did say David and Joe. And it's not like we were 18. We were probably like 11 or 12. And that was it. No, because the last Christmas present I got was a Tonka truck. So whatever age child wants a Tonka truck, that was it. I was probably 8, 9, or 10. Big yellow dump truck. And I told my uncle the story, my Uncle Giuliano. So my mother told my Uncle Giuliano, don't buy David and Joe Christmas presents anymore. I said to my uncle, Uncle Giuliano, when we were kids, I told you that I wanted a Tonka truck, and that was the only time I ever got a Christmas gift that I asked for. And he said, what are you talking about? And I was like, don't you remember I asked you for a Tonka truck? You bought me a Tonka truck? So I have no idea. I never bought Christmas gifts. Your aunt did. I was like, it meant so much. I thought my uncle cared so much about me. And I was like, I can't wait to see my uncle. He could care less. I actually do have a funny story. When my father died, my sister's a horrible mother. And I was telling my uncle what my sister did, like about how she didn't tell us where my father's grave was. I was outside the country when my father died, which apparently offended my sister. No, my sister got angry because I had a girlfriend, and she was trying to interfere with my relationship with her. So she was trying to make it sound like my father was about to die immediately, like the day he went in for voluntary surgery. And I was like, he went in for voluntary surgery? The doctor didn't say he was going to die. Everybody says he's okay and he's fine. He died like 2 weeks later. But it was because the doctor screwed up something. I don't remember what it was. Maybe someday I'll remember. So my sister was, nutty like my mother. And my uncle happened to stop by the house. And I was telling him about my sister and what she did. Come on, what's going on? The vehicle's driving on its own. I was telling my uncle about bad things that my sister had done, like not telling us about my father's grave. She told me that my father was cremated. She'd made all these decisions before I got back. It was and my sister did the same thing my mother did. She took all of my clothes. She went to my closet and threw my luggage, which I kept at my father's house. And she took everything. And then she blamed it on my father. My father was a feeble man. He didn't take all of my clothes out of my luggage that was in the closet, stupid shit like that. My brother admitted that my sister did it. He admitted. But he's on her side, so, because he's bad like she is, Oh, what's it doing? What's it doing? What's it doing? Okay, it's driving on its own. Is it driving again? So my uncle came over, and I know that I joke around a lot, and maybe I say, "Oh, this guy's a jerk." I'm just saying it to joke around, because the serious, informational, instructional, good guy video, nobody cares. So I'm trying to be, hey, I'm the cool guy who thinks that this guy's a loser or this guy's a noob. So I told my uncle, I said, my sister, she lies to her kids. And he says to me, what? Come on, everybody lies to their kids. What are you talking about? And the way he says it was so funny. My uncle's really funny. And I realized, first of all, my sister's still wrong. When you lie to your kids, your kids don't trust you. Duh. But he made it sound so comically. He's got 4 kids, and I don't think he had it easy with his kids. But that's another story. I'll give you an example of what my sister did. One of the lies. She would reward her daughter with a penny every night before she goes to bed. She would put it on the dresser, the clothes dresser. But because she's just a child, it's the same penny every night. She doesn't give her an additional penny the next night. It's the same penny. So, if you're good, I'll give you a penny and put it on your dresser. It's the same penny it was the night before. So she's, playing. She's pranking her daughter just like my mother pranked me. And I said, Joanne, why are you doing that? She said, it's been like 2 months. It's the same penny. It's a horrible thing to do to somebody. The kid's going to figure it out someday and say, why did my mother do this? Oh, it's because my mother got great sense of humor. No, it's not. It's because your mother's a horrible person, like her mother. So for those of you who are just joining, who haven't bailed, I'm telling true stories about my crazy mother because truth is so interesting. No one ever believes that what I'm saying is true. When I went to college and told my friends what my mother did, nobody believed me. In fact, to this day, no one. Actually, I did have one girlfriend who said she believed me, but pretty much everybody said no, that's not true. Mothers aren't like that. Mothers love their kids. Nope, my mother didn't. Horrible person. And nowadays, if you look at the way people are acting, the crazy, not the Karen videos, but the crazy people, the cancel culture people that go into a grocery, let's say somebody goes into a restaurant and starts harassing people and yells at them and tells them what to do and takes their drinks and throws it on the ground. That's the type of behavior my mother used to do. And she's a horrible mother. So I'm going to play another game. Another story about my mother. One day I asked my mother how old she was. She said, I'm 28. So I had to have been 6 or 7 years old. My mother was young when she got married when she was 15 and 18 when she had her first kid. My sister said that my grandfather would do anything to get rid of her when they lived in Italy. My father had already moved to the United States. They're from the same hometown. He said that they weren't like friends or anything when they were kids, but they kind of knew of each other. Everybody in the family knew each other when they were younger, when they were kids. So, more stories about my mother. I went through a lot of the good stories. Let's see if I can come up with one more. Whenever my friends came over, if she thought it was one of the neighbors. She would be such a mean woman. I've got to be careful about the swearing. And she would notice, oh, I didn't. She'd notice that it was someone that she doesn't know, and then all of a sudden she would be nice. That's the type of thing my mother would do. She got caught a couple times saying really nasty things, and then she would say who she thought it was, and I was like, why would you think that that person would be the one sitting next to me? Because sometimes, I had in high school you make more friends, and they don't come over as often because they live far away. In order to hit these tanks, you got to go on the side, so that's what I'm going to do. While I'm thinking about stories about my mother. My mother spoke Italian, and because of that, I didn't learn English the same as typical American. So there were a lot of words I didn't know the words to. And a lot of them had to do with food, the home, the kitchen, the bedroom. Like I didn't know the word I didn't know what a clothes dresser was or a dish rag. And when I heard dish rag, I was like, what the hell's a dish rag? How can a dish be a rag? I don't understand. And the teacher got so mad at me. She asked me to pick up a dish rag, and I'm looking around saying, what the hell are you talking about? It's a dish rag. I guess I'm not going to make it over there easily. I do have binocs. I should have just gone over there in the first place. You can do it. You can do it. Come on. My mother was a big time. You guessed the word. Big time what? You guessed the word. My mother was a big time farter. My mother would fart in front of me all of the time. And she would say her farts smell like roses. So there were many times we'd be sitting watching TV and she would just lay it out. And, when we were kids, we had to sit on the floor and she's sitting on the sofa. So she would, do what she had to do at nose level. It wasn't that fun. And she didn't do it once. It was like every night you got to be on your guard for the deed, I guess you could say. Oh yeah, I'm a feminist, just like my mom. My mother hardly worked. I'm telling true stories about my mother. She worked like 28 hours a week, and she worked 5-hour shifts at the department store. If I ever say anything nice about my mother, you're taking it wrong. Trust me, I got nothing nice to say about her. When I was 16, I made more money than my mother did, working part-time jobs. Get close so he ricochets. My mother really never took care of me as a kid. So, like anything to do with like clothing or um, getting a haircut or at the doctor. So she would not take me to the doctor, and she would not take me to the dentist. When I went to the dentist, when I had a toothache, it's like 25 years old. I went to my dentist. I didn't know he was a child dentist. I just had a toothache and I went to the dentist. It was in my 20s. And I went to the dentist, and the nurse is going through all the index cards looking for my card because it wasn't on a computer back then. And there was one yellow piece of paper, and she pulls out this yellow piece of paper, and it was so old. And she says to me, "How long has it been since you've been to the dentist?" I said, "I don't know, 6 years." She said, "No, 7." Like, my parents never took me to the dentist. They didn't care. And they would argue when they were kids there was no dentist, so we don't go. And the same with the doctor. If I was sick, forget it. You're not getting taken care of. The rule was, if I was sick, no matter what it was, you go to sleep early. And anyone else in the family, no matter what it was, they get to stay up late. So the rule also applies for something like Coca-Cola. When my brother was sick, my father would buy him a 2-liter bottle of soda. I don't know why. So when I was sick, I would say, "Dad, can I have a 2-liter bottle of soda?" "Nope, that's for Joe." So for some reason, if my brother is sick, the 2-liter bottle of soda was a cure. And I don't know. Not going to cry that much. My brother would drink the 2-liter bottle of soda. I really don't drink as much as he does. I never was a drink a 2-liter bottle of soda kind of guy. Maybe 1 liter I could do per day, but not 2. Never been here before. I guess nobody went to go find the grill. It was a pretty good game, considering I was talking the whole time. Wow, what a loser. Game's over. So I've been telling stories about my mother. I wonder if I have any other good stories. She would break things right in front of me. Really can't remember because, it was a long time ago. I remember when I was 3 or 4 years old, I was a very happy child. And every time I saw my mother, it would make me so angry to be around my mother. And I remember, like, you're just discovering the world. My brother was always running around, jumping on stuff. But when my mother was around, she was there to just yell at me. And, you know what? I'm going to make this another video. I'm going to cut this video off here. Another one in the series. The mega series. That's 6 parts so far. My throat's dry. Quick break. Okay, I'm back. So for those of you who are watching the live stream who haven't jumped ship yet, I'm telling stories about my crazy mother. These are true stories, and I'm not saying it because I'm angry or complaining. I'm saying it to have an interesting commentary. All the instructional videos, people really don't care about. I've been making what I thought were funny videos. People don't seem to care. So I'm going to try the true story route and it's all going to be my family. Maybe one day I'll turn these true stories into jokes. I've heard other comedians use them. But my mother was just so cruel. Scratching my back. Okay, so this is part 7 of a so far 7-part series about my crazy mother. I saw Jim Carrey on TV. He said every comedian has a crazy mother. That was a theory he had. And my mother happens to be a crazy person. I'm going to tell you some stories about her. And I understand why she's crazy, because of where she grew up and not being around other people, growing up in the middle of nowhere. I saw her house, and it was literally a shack. That's how I describe it. It was made out of wood, and the wood was black because it was so old. It was rotted wood, and it looked like I could just go knock it down. And it was a small house. It was like shed size. And my mother said they had one bed, and they all had to share the bed. She said her and her 2 brothers, they had to share the bed. I don't know where the parents slept. I really don't know. But I will tell you that in Italian families in Italy, they would sleep in the kitchen because the kitchen was where they would cook. And so the kitchen would be warm at night when it's time to go to sleep. And it's funny because my grandfather would sleep in the kitchen in New York. Not any warmer. I mean, he's got heat in the home. I think it's because he didn't want to walk up the stairs. So I'm telling stories about my mother, true stories about her craziness. I told a lot of good ones. If you want to hear lots of crazy, non-believable stories, So my mother, I thought she was stupid because the things that she said, it was always like, I don't know. I don't know. Everything was, I don't know. But the reality was she did know. She was just lying to me. And I discovered she was pranking me. She was always playing pranks on me, like hiding something of mine. And she would hide something and then watch me go looking for it. She did that sort of stuff. Stories which I've already told, of course. She wanted me to work at the store where she worked. My brother and sister worked there. I was like, there is no way I'm ever going to work with you. And as I say, when I was 8 years old, I wanted to run away from home. And I went to the library to look at the maps to try to figure out how to run away, where to go to. And I couldn't figure out how to leave the city because I didn't want to get returned to my parents. I wanted to be gone forever. Or I wanted to live with my other relatives, like my grandparents. Which, I could have done. So that's what I daydreamed about. Even when I was older, like I remember when I was 13, I used to daydream about running away from home. And not only that, I thought about other things. I'm not going to say what they are. But let's just say something were to happen that would solve all of my problems, but not something like that I would actively make happen, but something that would kind of happen accidentally, say. So that's the type of thing I daydreamed about as a kid because of my cruel mother. We had fish, we had goldfish, and I'm pretty sure, oh no, the rabbits. Okay, the rabbits will be an interesting story about my mother. We had rabbits, we had goldfish, we had parakeets, and we had a cat. But the cat we only had for like a week. So I'm going to tell you the cat stories. We had a cat for about a week. It wasn't our cat. It was like the neighbor's cat. And my mother was giving it milk every day, which I'm sure someone's going, you're not supposed to do that. But dumb people, they don't have the internet like you do. So she was giving it milk every day, so the cat was coming back every day. So she believed that the cat was homeless. I said, Mom, no, the cat's not homeless. It's somebody else's cat. You're just giving it food. I was probably 8 or 9 years old, because I barely remember this. And I remember my sister was at the age when she was always running around because she used to chase after the cat. And my mother was always, one rule for the boys, one rule for the girls. So my sister always got to stay up later, which means that my brother and I were going to sleep earlier. Y'all, you figured that one out, right? So they'd be in the basement watching TV because we were not allowed to use the living room. You're going to learn a lot about Italian families, right? So the cat would come running into our room all of a sudden because my sister would just be chasing after the cat. So all of a sudden, the cat would just run into the room, and he would hide under our bed because we had beds that were bunk beds, and they had drawers underneath them. The beds were not stacked on top of each other. It was like maybe you could if you wanted to. They had drawers underneath them, so the cat found a way to get behind the drawers, and my sister would come running in the room giggling. And, we had to tell my sister, don't chase after the cat, but she's not going to listen to us. So my mother took the cat. His name was Tom, or I should say her name was Tom. My mother took the cat to the vet and said, oh, it's a girl, it's not a boy. So Tom was a girl. And one day, we never saw the cat again. And I don't know what happened to the cat. I have no idea. With knowing my mother, who knows. But we should really regroup. Return to base, please. I don't like what he's doing, but if he's spotting somebody, we should all reform, because united we stand, divided we fall. So my mother moved out of state after she got divorced. And my sister told me a story. She said something about my mother having a cat. And what she said was, no, first of all, the reason why she got rid of the cat, she said because we don't take care of it. I'm like 8 or 9 years old. You think I'm supposed to take care of the cat? And she never once asked me to feed the cat or anything like that. And would I even feed it? It was my mother that wouldn't take care of it. So, nice. My mother, after she got divorced, she was living by herself, and her neighbor had a cat. At some point, she moved into a house or a condo or something. She took the neighbor's cat with her. That's the type of person my mother is. We had rabbits. My aunt, this is a really cute story. My aunt gave us a rabbit in the springtime, and it was a little baby rabbit. And I remember going to play with it. My brother's a psycho, so he would pull on its ears and stuff, and then blame me and say I did it, even though I never did. So at some point after a few months, the rabbit was getting bigger. My mother said, no more rabbit. That's the end of the rabbit. So she took it to my grandmother's house, and she just let it, I don't know if it was a couple of months. It might have been a short time. He was a baby when she got rid of him. So when she got rid of him, he was still a baby, and she brought him to my grandmother's house and just left him in the yard. So find your new home, rabbit. So a few months later, keep in mind I was just a kid. I don't remember how old I was. A few months later, I'm over at my grandmother's house, and this rabbit walks across the yard, and I'm looking at the rabbit, and it's a middle-aged, young teenage rabbit. It's not an adult. It's not a baby. A little bit bigger. And I noticed it was the rabbit. It had the exact same color patterns as the one that we had in the house. And he recognized me, and he ran up to me at my grandmother's house. Okay, so that M10 killed him. He's not going to tell us where the M10 is, but we know that the he is identifying it at that location. So we'll fire a blind shot. We do have a left H, which is our advantage. You got to take your positioning as quickly as possible, because that's what he's doing. He's taking up his positioning as quickly as possible. Or maybe he's not. Maybe he's a camper. Anytime an animal disappeared, my mother's going to lie about it. She's not going to say, like, oh, he died. No, it's because my mother flushed it down the toilet or something. And it's not, and she'll always say, you didn't feed it. No, it was because you didn't take care of it. So one day the goldfish died, and somebody flushed it down the toilet. So the next time we got goldfish, immediately my sister flushed it down the toilet. Not a sick, dead goldfish, a live goldfish. I saw her do it. I remember changing the fish bowl. So I remember doing that as a kid. We had typical fish bowl, goldfish. Letting him know that I'm spotted. The left H should leave. I don't think he should stay there. Letting him know there's somebody there. Oh, you thought I was there, but I wasn't. I screwed that up because I released the auto aim. I thought I was going to need to aim manually, and maybe there was a little bit of a delay, and he beat me to the punch. Maybe I could have killed him. I don't know. Video game. Playing a video game. Not real. Simulation. He's on the cap. Oh, he's sacrificing himself. I would never do this. So he had to have ammo to be ammo racked. Why didn't he do anything? Oh, maybe he tracked him? He's got 1 minute. I'm going to tell you another story, something that my mother told me. She said I had a great-grandmother who lived in Pennsylvania. Oh, you got a great-grandmother, she lives in Pennsylvania. It wasn't true. My great-grandmother lived like 10 miles away. Never met her until 5 days before she died. And then they started saying, oh, you got lots of family. It's like, what are you talking about? You got cousins, aunts, uncles. I had a lot of relatives that lived 10 miles from me. Had no idea. And a lot of times, my mother, we would be at some sort of a place with relatives, and my mother would start chatting with someone. And they'd be sitting there chatting. Oh, hi, Amelia, how are you? And they'd be always curious about me. Say, hey, come, how do you say? I can't remember Italian. Come te chiamo, they say in Italian. What's your name? And they say, oh, hey, good boy, good boy. Hey, what's your name? So there were some that spoke in Italian, and they'd sit there and chat. I'd be like, I've seen this woman before. And then, afterwards we'd go home, and you'd say something like, yeah, Mom, who's that woman, Amelia, that old woman? I've seen her before. I kind of recognize her. I've seen her once or twice. Oh, yeah, she's your godmother. It's like, what? It's like, she's my godmother. You don't even tell me? My godmother lived in my city probably my whole life. Met her like 2 or 3 times that I remember. And like I said, she didn't speak English. My godfather also did, but I met him a few times um, when I was a kid, probably before my sister was born. Carlo or Carlos, I don't remember. Guess what I'm going to do? I am going to buy some crew trainer thingies. So I'm slowing down with the stories about my crazy mother, and it's not because there aren't more. It's because it's just hard to remember. And trust me, the 7-part series has a wealth of stories, and a lot of it is just the day-to-day crap. It was a lot of you're going to get hit with this wooden spoon. You're going to get a shoe thrown at you. You're going to get slapped in the face. Um, your stuff's going to get thrown out. Yeah. And there's some private stuff I don't want to talk about. She sprayed me with water once, while I was screaming at her. That was not one of my favorite days. I was very young, and she got really angry over something stupid. So she just started spraying me with water. This is actually gonna gun mark soon. 59.69. That last game was a pretty good game. So let's see if I can come up with another story about my mother. A lot of them are going to be obviously stories about my other siblings, but okay, I'll tell you some more stories about my mother. My mother was not an American citizen when I was born. So, under Italian law, just like the United States, you take the citizenship of your mother. So, because she was not an Italian citizen, I don't remember what they call it. But I can go to Italy. I've got all the documents for everything, and tell them I want officially to be an Italian citizen. What you do is I've already got my mother's birth certificate, my father's birth certificate, marriage certificates, everything. All the documents come from Italy. None of it comes from the United States. You have to go to the town, which is a small town, where all of this happened. You get all the documents. It was really easy. You just got to wait for it to come through the mail. And I could go and get that, but I found a mistake. There's a mistake on my birth certificate. It has my mother's place of birth as being New York. She was not born in New York. So I need to fix that. Yeah, my mother cheated on my father. It's not really a funny story or interesting story, so why tell it? You know what? I'm going to give a chance with spotting from over here, just to see what happens. when you are Italian and there's more than one adult female around, you will have large quantities of people yelling at you at the same time, whatever thing they need to yell at you. So if they need you to eat whatever food they cook, as soon as one of them says, eat, manja, manja, if there's 5 adult females, you'll have 5 adult females yelling at you, manja, manja, manja. And they get offended if you do not eat their food. So if they offer you like a cookie, so I don't want it. Why you not like? It's always you don't like the food. And I said, no, I'm not hungry. I've already had 7 cookies. Hey, one more. What's wrong with one more? It's always one more. Then I say, oh yeah, 7's enough. Oh, if you're not hungry, that's okay. It's never. My mother and my grandmothers and some other people in the family all worked at the same factory. The kids worked in one factory. The adults worked in another factory. They were all seamstresses. My mother made dresses. Well, that was like her hobby thing. She did it as a hobby. She made dresses. And she made people miserable with her other hobby. Okay, so there was a day that she was driving in the car and she saw a bird in the grass in my grandmother's yard. It's not like we were going to visit my grandmother, none of that. We were driving down the street, passing by Grandma's house. She saw a dead bird, not a dead bird, but a bird that I thought was dead in Grandma's yard. She parked the car. She said, get out and pick up the bird. It's like, what? Get out and pick up the bird. It's like, why would I get out and pick up a dead bird? The bird's not dead. It's just sick. Get out and pick it up. And I'm not like an 18-year-old. I'm just a young kid. Letting my allies know I was spotted. I'm going to duck in over here. Because there is SPG, as you can see. That I did not plan. But you knew that. And look, they missed because they didn't shoot over here. So, if at some point I convinced my mother I'm not going to get out and pick up whatever this bird is. So she got out and picked it up. She was claiming that if it wasn't picked up, it would be eaten by a cat. It's like, I didn't know you cared about other living things. I was a little surprised that she had compassion for sick beings. She certainly never did for me. Yeah, like if I were sick, the hospital story, I got to tell that one. If I were sick, she didn't care. She didn't give me medicine or anything like that. I came home from college and said, I'm really sick. It's nightmare, the 6-hour drive. Could you please get some blankets? However many blankets you have, get triple and put them in my bedroom. This was as I was a college student. Got home, nothing. It's like they probably went and removed blankets, more likely what happened. Because they just don't care. In fact, my aunt said, oh, yeah, we'll have blankets for you. Got home, nothing. There was the thin sheet, and that's it. So I'm shivering when I get home, and I probably told them I wanted something hot to drink. It was like an hour before they gave it to me. And I got home, we kept the blankets in the bathroom because, that was the closet. And I would just get out all the blankets, put them in my bed. Nobody comes and says, how you doing? Oh, okay, so we got to tell the hospital story. And my psycho mother, you have no idea what she used to do to me. That was good for spotting. I was in college. I would drive back. My father let me have the car. It was his car. I would drive back to visit my parents. It's a 6-hour drive. I would visit on Friday because we probably had half day of school when I was a freshman. You don't get full day or something. I remember driving back on Friday and I would go back on Sunday. And I was like, on Sunday, if I leave at 2 o'clock p.m., I can watch The Simpsons at 8 o'clock p.m. This was like 1989, 1990. I really don't remember. When, I would come home every weekend, drive 6 hours each way. And this might have been when I was at the commuter college. I went to a commuter college, so on weekends nobody was on campus. There was nothing to do. We didn't have internet. Or no, I don't remember when I might have had internet, but we probably had to use the modem, and it was slow and it was crappy, and I didn't know how to use it. So my mother would bitch all morning long on Sunday. Why don't you stay for dinner? It's like, well, I got to go to school tomorrow. Why don't you stay for dinner? I have to go to school tomorrow. Why don't you stay for dinner? And she would bitch for hours. From the point that I woke up until I left at 2 o'clock, she would be demanding that I stay for dinner. And because of that, at some point I just left without saying goodbye. I just got up and left. Because I got sick of every weekend this going on. And she says, why are you coming and just staying for 3 days? I was like, that's all I can do. And I'm not just coming to visit you. I'm definitely not coming to visit you, right? I got lots of family. All of my aunts and uncles and cousins and grandparents all live within 15 minutes of each other. So that wasn't all. When I had my final exams, I said to my mother, I said, no, I have to go. I have final exams this week. She said, well, skip your final exams. I was like, Mom, I am going to school. The goal is to eventually take the final exam and to graduate from school. She said, no, skip the final exam. I was like, you're a crazy person. You just can't reason with her. My mother never went to high school. She never did homework. She never took tests. She eventually became an American citizen. I think in order to become an American citizen, you have to get like a GED or something. I don't remember. So, the hospital story. When I was in 10th grade, I had a cyst, and I had no idea what a cyst was. All I knew is that I had it. It's called a pilonidal cyst. And if you know where your pilonidal is, you know where I had it. Had it in the pilonidal. I'm pretty sure it's tailbone or something. Little bit of extra movement here. I could easily get slammed by the SPG. It's too bad they spotted me. If I were playing, I would have been a little bit more careful about how I parked to make sure that I was deeper into the bush. So I was in the hospital, which is very interesting. I have an interesting story, but I cannot say it, unfortunately, because of my age. But if I were over 18, I could say it. And I'm going to tell you the hospital real quick. The head nurse was smoking hot. She was probably like 28. And then all the student nurses, they're all females. They're college kids. They were so beautiful. Every time the head nurse, only the head nurse would talk, she would come in and say, oh, hi, David, these are all the nurses, and they're going to be taking care of you for the 2 weeks, which never happened, for the 2 weeks that you're going to be here. My mother pulled me out after like 3 days. So, every time the nurses were around, I was like, I'm going to explode, right? I never knew what love was until I was in the hospital surrounded by like 15 hot college girls. And so I was in the hospital. I had this cyst removed, probably from all the spankings. That's probably why you get the cyst, is from all the spankings. And I told one of the nurses, I don't want my mother to visit me. She annoys the hell out of me. And the nurse told my mother, so I was there for 3 days. My mother pulled me out of the hospital. That was it. I should have said nothing, but I didn't know any better. So my mother had to take care of me at home. I just laid in the bed. My mother is a complete nut. She is completely unreasonable. Everything's always her way. No negotiation. That's, she's like the leftism. Anytime I was sick, she could care less. You're not dying. Was that 63? No, 61. Play one more game. And then I'm going to eat some corn chicken. I'm going to tell you, involves my father. It's how much my sister got away with. My sister, this is the exact conversation. My sister, I've told this story before, but we're going to jump ahead. My sister tells my father that I moved the car down the street. My father opens her, hey, go back and get the car. She threatened to run me over. I don't care. Like, that's an actual conversation that happened between me and my father. I'll give you the short story. My sister threatened to run me over with the car because she's just a bad person. I was playing basketball with the neighbor kid in the driveway. She demanded that she park the car in the driveway. And the neighbor kid was like 6 or 7 years old. He couldn't throw the ball into the basket. So I had to stand next to him so the ball wouldn't hit him on the head, right? And my sister is yelling and screaming that I have to move. We have a 4-car driveway, which you could probably fit 6 cars. And she had to park right under the hoop, which is only 1 car blocks the hoop. And she just refused to park in the street. She knew what she was supposed to do. She was just being a dick. And she goes and tells my father, makes it sound like I'm the one who's wrong. Leftist. My sister's a leftist. I'm going to get banned for saying leftist. Humor, joke, opinion. Do not ban, please. I love everyone. Compassion, love. Liberal, good. Leftist, good. I'm not a liberal. Leftist, good. I'm a moderate. That's what everybody said. No, I'm a moderate. Which means you're wrong. If you're a moderate, you're wrong. It's something I've learned. Men think that I'm conservative, and women think I'm liberal. So there's your answer. Which I've heard many times in my life. Nope, just had a crazy mother. No dissent permitted. Yeah, I know that there were other things that I remembered that my crazy mother did, but I really don't remember the story. So, okay, this is a true story. This is going to make it worth it. I should put it in another, I'm going to save it for another video, but it involves Halloween and something associated with what my mother thought would be a humorous costume. I'm going to put it in the next video because it's a really good start for video. And if I had a son, I would never do it. blind. Oh no, I was spotted. Had to shoot through that house. Oh, somebody kill him. I once fired 100 shots. It was more than 100 shots at a Churchill. He was on a cap, and I was trying to reset the cap. It was on Malinovka, and I didn't know any better. So he bounced like 100 shots out of like 115. That was like when I first played the game. I got whopping 2 hit points. Whopping 2, whopping 2, whopping 2. Better not get spotted. I was just going to say, how do you kill off that guy? You know, you're not going to damage him from the front. So I got to come up with a plan to get behind him. Then he died. Humor, funny, video game. Do not ban. I think I should fire. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break. Eat some food. Wow, I've been up all this time. It's late.